Okay, so item 5 is staff reports, and staff has a few items it would like to present. Ms. Hickey? Okay.
Here's mine.
And mine doesn't turn off.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with mics. So they're working on trying to fix the mics apparently on this side. I think all of yours work, I believe. So we're not going to capture everything yet. So I think I'll just start with Terry. Why don't you start?
I will, but I don't have a microphone, so I'll just.
Oh, you don't?
Talk loudly.
Okay.
Oh, that's yeah. There you go. Try to talk into Pia's microphone. So the state budget has been signed by the governor, and the state budget has the normal commission monies in it, but it actually has some really exciting opportunities also. So, last year there was $35 million put in the budget for teacher recruitment and development type efforts. There's another $25 million that's been put in to expand the classified grant program. And that classified grant, we originally had 25 programs get approval at 25 different LEAs, and they were supposed to be working with 1,000 teachers total. We don't have quite that many in the process yet, but this is going to allow, I think, us to add another 1,250 classified staff members who can finish their college degree and get their teaching credential. And that means it might make sense if Nadia would come to the table.
I was going to say.
Our newest employee, Nadia Alam, comes to us from Boston. And Nadia was hired as our grants manager. And so she has been working frantically with these programs because the classified had a report due June 15th, right? And she's just getting going with the integrated undergraduate programs and with the recruitment center. So Nadia, say hi to the committee and tell them a little bit about yourself. Perfect. Why don't you just sit and swirl over? Because we're gonna get a man to come over and sit and swirl over.
I can do it, but Nadia's about to talk.
Gotcha.
I can move.
We need music.
Well, it's wonderful to meet all of you. I've heard about this committee and the wonderful people that are part of this group, and this is actually my first COA meeting, and so unfortunately I have to leave early to get on a call related to these grant programs, but I'm curious to see the process. I just moved to Davis, California in December, so I'm new to the area. My husband's from here, so I do have a little bit of California-ness through him, but I am an East Coast girl, so I have been working in education for a while. I was at previously at the regional accrediting agency in New England, called the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, in a research and policy capacity, and I like long walks, and no, I'm kidding. So, that's it for me.
So we're very excited that we're going to have additional opportunity to open up the RFP for the classified grant again. And then in addition to that amount of money, there's another 3 million that's coming to the commission to go to the recruitment center, the California Center on Teaching Careers that's housed at the Tulare County Office of Education. This is leftover Title II money that the department had, and now it's being put out as one-time funds. I think 7 million of it has to go towards administrators, recruitment, preparation, and retention, and the other 4 goes towards teachers, recruitment, preparation, and retention. And it's going to be a RFP grant process again for LEAs. And we're not completely sure how that's going to roll out because there were a lot of ideas that were in place. There were a lot of bills. There were some people that wanted residency programs. There were some people that wanted bilingual teachers. There were some people that wanted STEM teachers. There were people that wanted, I'm trying to remember if there was any special ed teachers. All these legislators had different ideas. This governor likes to have things go through the budget process, and there was this $11.3 million, I think, left. And so a whole bunch of those ideas have been kind of shoved into the enabling language about this money, and we're going to have to kind of think about and work with the center and maybe the field to get this RFP developed for what are these LEAs going to do. I think there have to be at least 30 grants that go out. They have to be at least 100,000. They can't be more than 1.25 million, I think, is in the requirements. So we'll see how this rolls out. We'll be able to tell you more about this in August as far as the grants and what we're going to move forward in that. That's definitely.
Who was she talking to?
Are you answering to that now? Have you?
I'm training myself.
That's me. That's me.
Very good plan.
All right. So I guess my microphone is really fun. So I wanted to let you all know that we really have started the implementation of the new system full throttle now. So we are in the process of finishing up the preconditions review. So you'll recall in the new system, we asked for preconditions twice. And I wondered how that was going to play out and if we really needed to do it. And this review of the preconditions really tells me that was a really good move. A lot of questions that needed to be asked of institutions, just a lot of cleanup and trying to figure out if they're really aligned. Our entire consultant staff and our analysts have participated in the review of the preconditions. Right now we have 3 cohorts in, so that's a lot. That's more than we normally did, but that we needed to get the ones that were going through the site visits this year because they would not have already sent in their preconditions, and we needed to get that before the site visit. And then the 2 that are would have normally are on their 1st and 4th year of the cycle. So we are just about ready to send out at least the green cohort's responses, and the consultants were fantastic. But it really did solidify in my mind the fact that this was a good move, and that there are questions that need to be asked of institutions, and whether there's been some drift on some things. So congratulations, that was a really good move, especially Margot and Cheryl and whoever else served on that processes committee that thought of that. So we're working our way through those, and so those should go out to the institutions pretty soon. I know. Go ahead.
Just one thing about that topic.
Mm-hmm.
The really nice way that Catherine and Cheryl have organized this work is we have calibration because, for example, Karen Sacramento works with induction programs. She read the induction program preconditions, so she read across the induction programs. And William with special ed read across the special ed programs. So we're getting people that have expertise in the content area of the program, and we know that all across the institutions we're kind of reading evenly, and that's something that we didn't have in the past. So I think that's really a good improvement.
Right. Catherine, how about your discussion about common standards review? I was just talking about we were going full throttle now into the new system. So,
good morning. So, common standards, what the goal is that the individuals who are reviewing the common standards are the same individuals that go out onto the site visit. And actually, that's not a change. In the past, though, the common standards came in just before the visit. A couple months before the visit, the common standards reviewers reviewed them and then got ready for the site visit. It sounds like my mic's working, so that's something. It didn't give as much time to the institutions to kind of know what the feedback was and prepare for the visit. So the task group and you all and the commissioners moved common standards into year 5. So common standards come in the spring of year 5, in February. This year we let them come in March because green is new to this. So what goes on ahead of that, though, and then I'll tell you how it came out, is that we send out a survey, and we ask individuals who we know have reviewed common standards before, we didn't train anybody new this round, to choose all of the possible review dates that they're available and all the possible site visit dates that they would be available. And then we do a match.com. So the group of people who are available on the same review dates that are also available on the same site visit date and have the right expertise, that's like the really important part, but, so then we put together pairs, and we assign them to the site visit. And we have had, I think we've had 6 now, 6 review sessions where we bring these pairs together. We invite the team leads as well. In small institutions, or single program, 2 program institutions, the team lead is also part of the Common Standards review team. We bring them together, and rather than looking at lengthy narratives, as you can recall, that we've streamlined it to where the institution is providing us with evidence, things that are actually available in their program for the most part. So the reviewers look over that submission, they talk with each other, and they make a preliminary finding to the standard. Either it's preliminarily aligned or more information is needed. And when more information is needed, they note that using language of the standard. And then we've added one more option, since it is the same folks who are going to be at the visit, and there's this not quite a year of time between when the institution is getting the feedback and when their site visit is coming up. But there's also a place for the reviewers to note, even if it's preliminarily aligned, we'd like to see this at the site visit. So what we talked to reviewers about is that really you're providing this cookbook for institutions who are getting ready for a site visit on how you can be successful. And I'll tell you, at first, you all who are at institutions are such champions of your colleagues. And there was some reluctance, to let's keep looking and find it preliminarily aligned. And through discussion, really reviewers are comfortable now with, okay, it's better to tell them we can't find something than for them to find out at the site visit we can't find it. And it's better to tell them, hey, we're going to want to see this data when we get to the site visit, than to wait until the mid-visit report and ask for it. Cheryl's smiling over there. So, or Dr. Forbes is smiling. So, it's been amazing. And what's also been amazing is that I would say about 70% of the review teams have completed during the day of the review. And they've been thorough and thoughtful. But because they're not wading through hundreds of pages of narrative, they're really focusing on what the program is doing. So what we've said is, don't tell us, show us. And so they're looking at the show. And those who don't finish during that day, it's sometimes because it wasn't a very well organized document, submission. And from now on, they're all going to be websites, so we'll alleviate that. And then sometimes it's just a big institution with lots of programs, and it's at the unit level. So but we have, for the most part, then had them come back into us within 2 weeks. So this year, we're really we're combing through them, and we'll always do a review of those documents before they go out to the institution, the feedback, and the team leads have been looking at those, but we think that they'll be really helpful. And then 60 days prior to the visit, the institution will post an addendum to their initial submission that'll be available for the team. So the people who reviewed it said, here's what we need to see, and then they get to see it. And then they get to make decisions about standards. So I think the loop is closed on that, and I'm hopeful.
I'd like to add a little more. I've been doing site visits for quite a few years now, and it's so different this year. So I was down at my year-out pre-visit on a day for my institution, and actually the same day, Catherine was elsewhere in the state with my team lead and my Common Standards members doing the Common Standards review. That means as the consultant working with the institution, I don't have to pry them and poke them and push them to try to get a web page. Their web page is up. Their Common Standards documentation is all on their web page. They actually have, it is just so much of more freeing approach, and the working as you go towards the visit is going to be so much smoother and calmer, because it used to be at times they were still trying to get their Common Standards pulled together for that 60 days before. And so I am so excited about this new process, and I'm thinking the other consultants kind of felt the same way. You don't have to push and push and push because they had to have done it for the Common Standards review.
I'm just really interested. So it seems like these two new formats or processes have really helped. I'm wondering if there's any trend or pattern of kinds of information. You said you had to ask more questions. Anything come to mind in terms of that?
With the preconditions, I can tell you that there's no pattern. Lynette and I really sat down with all the consultants' feedback, and we couldn't find a real pattern. It was a little bit of everything. So I guess at this point I would say that we still have 2 more cohorts to review and then get out the door. So maybe at the end of that process we will, but we couldn't. It was just a variety of things. And you can answer for Common Standards. I can't think of anything for Common Standards, but one of the things that I wanted to mention is that Melissa and other staff members have really spent a lot of time on the front end, making sure that the submission that they've provided us have the appropriate exhibits, because we're being very directive on the exhibits that we need to see. And, sometimes institutions are used to that flexibility, and we're saying there's still flexibility in responses and how you meet the standards, but we need to see we need to see your course sequence. That's a very basic thing. And making sure the links actually work so that we see where they assess certain competencies. So we may get some complaints at first about institutions not really liking how hard we are being with asking them to link things but it sure is making it way smoother on the other end. So it's paying off. And what we're hearing from our reviewers, the Common Standards folks that we met with last week in Fresno said, oh my God, this is incredible. I used to have to shut my door for a week, and then I used to have to carry this document with me everywhere I went. and now I'm done. I feel confident that I still understand what the institution is doing. I mean, it really is amazing, the feedback we're getting. And we're going to tell all of our members our colleagues to do this. So hopefully we'll also get more people in the BIR, which would be great.
I would add that the trend is in terms of the reviewers is that at first there's been a little bit of reluctance, like how am I going to know what I'm looking at without all the narrative? Mm-hmm. And then they've found out that they really do know what's there. And I will say that the thing that I know for certain is that when program review is fully implemented and we're not relying on program assessment documents as the non-duplicative part of Common Standards, our reviewers will, there's a stronger correlation between what we asked in the program review and what we asked in this, as well as once the data system is fully operational. So there's candidate competency and program effectiveness data that we're asking for and all that. I think that will also strengthen it. Right now, reviewers pretty much across the board for what we want to see at the site visit are asking to see data. Mm-hmm. So, and we've coached them to ask for that because it's not something that we ask for in the submission, and because it's going to be part of annual data submission.
And then I wanted to mention, so we're at the point where we've already scheduled all the site visits for this year. We're now that we have our Common Standards people, and they're working as a team already, which is fantastic. That's also something we heard is like, I already know who my partner is, and it's, not until April, and I can, as we work on this and get feedback from the institution, we can work together already. We're now
face-to-face matters.
Face-to-face, yeah, absolutely. And they liked that staff was there, because if they had questions, we could answer them right away. So there's a lot more efficiency in this system, which is really nice. We're starting now to assign the program people. So building out the teams and hopefully in the next, month, 6 weeks, as we are able to catch people, because we know it's vacation season, we'll be doing that. Go ahead, Catherine.
I want to add to one thing that may cause some confusion, and maybe all of you can help. So in order for all of this to work, we actually have already sent out a survey to the yellow cohort asking for their site visit preference for 2018-19. So because we'll be selecting program review teams for the fall, and we want to select teams of which at least a subset are available to be on the site visit. So there has to be another round of Match.com. And in order for that to happen, we have to know the site visit dates. So after this year, I think it'll just become routine. Oh, okay, about 15 months before my visit, they're going to ask me to pick a date. But if anything comes up about that, that's why.
We're doing 2 cohorts at once at the moment.
Yeah.
So it's confusing. And we are, so we're planning the program sampling and kind of getting the teams rounded out at this point in time. We're also planning and working on the BIR training. So we were overly ambitious and thought we could do a BIR training in June of this year, which was crazy. So then we moved it to August, and we still thought it was crazy once we realized the level of changes we need to make within the training itself, or how extensive those changes would be. So,
But Cheryl, we also realize, though, that we don't need new people this year. We need experienced people because we have to do this mix with program assessment, but the new common standards review.
Exactly.
So it makes actually a lot of sense not to do the training.
And we're doing training in each program review session we're doing in each common standards review session. So we're doing training in incremental pieces, but the whole like face-to-face BIR training. So our team, which is a lot of us around the table here and the staff, we are planning on the first face-to-face BIR full training of new people in January. So we will put something out soon on that. We will have a team lead training for this year's site visits. We're going to do that very early in the fall. I think we have dates set, and I just can't remember what they are. And then we'll do a refresher training for this year's site visit folks also, and anyone who kind of needs to know about the new system. And so we're getting all that put on the calendar and sending the words out on that. I think we probably might want to talk about TPA and APA development work. So Katie and Terry about TPA.
And Jake actually might want to come to the table because Jake's been quite
And
involved
I still
also.
think these microphones are not working. Okay.
Yeah, and mine now doesn't turn off. Mine just is.
Oh, yeah, ours is on all.
Yeah, permanently.
Okay. Yeah, try it. Yeah,
Yeah.
try it. Try it. Okay.
Can I ask a clarifying question? These meetings are recorded, but if you're out in the field, all you can do is listen. Right?
Not screeching so far.
But not if you are actually on the Zoom, they could technically come in, but we're muting them from that end. Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
But later you can go back and see the visual.
Crash is like this more frequent. I think.
Not a lot, no.
So I don't know what's happening now.
No, I
This
just
is all
meant
screwed
in
up. In general, no. Once they go to Zoom,
No, they're
they won't turn
on.
off.
They won't turn off.
Yeah.
So Cheryl, when are they going to? Because I know John Malin, you were interested in that BRI training as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in January. I'll send you.
Until January.
I want to do it too.
Yeah.
It's fun. For real.
I like
It's
the
true.
BIR training. It was a long time ago that I did it, but it was fun.
Good.
Dress? Where'd you get it? Is it Ann Taylor? Yeah, super cute.
Or Thomas.
I wrote IRB. You know where my head's
It was a little bright for me.
my notes.
Very cheerful. Yeah, it is very summery.
Just 9th and 10th. There's
thank you.
It's only 2 days. Yeah,
Of January?
January. 9th and 10th.
January 9th and 10th? Okay.
I think it's 10th and 11th because I think the 9th was the another training that we
Oh, so it's
tacking on.
I thought the first two were BIR. You think?
No, I think the second two are.
Okay. 10th and 11th
10th and
sounds
11th.
like.
So Terry,
At that Cal APA thing
Terry,
last week.
you want us to send you an email as a
You're
reminder?
going to send Cheryl an email, yeah.
Oh, Cheryl will send the email. Okay.
Yeah, I'll send an email out.
And then we're going to have to balance how many people we can have because we clearly need to have
Yeah.
trainees. So.
We're going to do probably 3
Okay.
in boom right in a row. It does not
Okay.
work? Okay. All right. Well, at least we know that now.
So we've turned that off. Shall we go back to Cal TPA?
Okay, we'll go back to Cal TPA. Terry and Jake. Whoever
So
Jake is.
Jake
is behind us.
and Katie.
And Katie.
So there
Katie
was
had eye surgery yesterday, so amazing she's even here.
Yeah, but she's going to be incognito all day.
Incognito.
Yeah.
So we did pilot the Cal TPA this year. And there was an agenda item at the June commission meeting on the pilot. And we actually have a scorer in the room because Bob was a lead. You were the lead for the music scores, right? And we were there for actually more than a week because there was a set one week and then the next week another set for doing the scoring. And the first set time they've set this up, the rubrics were pretty holistic, and there was only one rubric for each of the four components of the instructional cycle. And there are 2 instructional cycles in this new Cal TPA. And what they learned in the scoring was that those rubrics were inadequate. And they are going to redevelop the rubrics. And Jake was involved in that redevelopment meeting because that was right after I did my hip. So I was supposed to be there and I didn't get there. So we've added Jake to the Cal TPA team with Katie, Wayne, and Amy Rising. And things are going forward. So Jake, or Katie, what else can you tell us? One more year. They have another whole year.
They're done
They
design.
meet till July of 18. Yeah, they do. They're going to continue to meet every other month, though, now. They will meet and they will also go over the field review data next spring. Yeah, so they are still working for another whole year. Jake, what about rubrics and all? And
Yeah, I'm not sure how much detail you want me to go into, but
not a lot.
there were,
Not a
Stop, Jay. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever you want to do, dial it back by 10.
yeah, right now there are going to be 9 different rubrics per cycle.
Cycle.
Yeah. The first cycle is all about understanding your students and who you're planning instruction for. So you get as much background information as you can, knowing about English learners, about students with special needs, and you plan an instruction cycle for your students. You'll be, in that first cycle, they'll be recording a lesson that they teach and then reflecting on that lesson. In the second cycle, they are, the plan there is about, it's all about assessment. So they're planning an assessment strategy starting with informal assessments, student self-assessment, and then formal assessment as well. And the nice part too is then after they reflect on that, they actually teach then another lesson based on how did they make any changes based on the results they got from their assessment. So yeah, it's a really nice structure. So, and there's 9 rubrics for each cycle. And I think the total number they're looking for is 550 for the field test. The hope is that we'll have around 550 submissions that we'll be scoring again after the fall.
And so we are doing the field test this year. They had an item at the commission earlier this month because the field test will stand for the TPA. So as long as someone meets the threshold of the commission set, which is 2 across the cycles, and I think it's still no more than 1 on the cycles. And if you get a 1, you have to get a 3 to compensate. And each cycle is looked at separately. So if you had 2 1s on one cycle, that's not acceptable. It's hard to get a 1 in many ways because a 1 really means you haven't done much of it. But it's very exciting. It's very, very cool work, and they are going to be rolling it out on the actual system that they will be using in the future. This year, the whole thing was done on a pretend platform. It wasn't their final platform. So that will be coming too.
On. It has a delay, so that's the problem. Okay, Terry. Okay. Sorry.
Some of them aren't coming on.
Okay. Oh,
Over the next few months, one of the things we need to do is to get with the TPA team from the accreditation side to understand the data that we'll be putting in the rubrics
Right.
and others and how we can use that in accreditation. Remember, one of our major focuses is to move the And so how do we take that data and what does it mean as we look at program quality? So that'll be work that's coming up.
I'm not sure my mic's coming. One really nice change that came up too from the pilot to the field test is that the rubrics they have a focus in there on planning with assets of the students, not just needs. So there's a lot of language around understand the needs of your students. So there's a lot of language now around tell us about the needs of your students, but also the assets that they bring. Yeah.
Excuse me. The APA is a little bit different because we are not in the high stakes that the TPA is in as well. Our design team has been working alongside the TPA ones. We meet the day after, the week after. Deb Erickson serves on that design team and has been rolling up her sleeves with the rest of us as well. They have currently 3 cycles for the APA. The first one is on facilitating a small group. The second one is using data to make decisions and a plan around that data. And the third one is observation of a teacher, a volunteer teacher. They are finishing up their pilot, as is the TPA, and going into field study. They're looking at 300 folks, 100 per cycle, to be graded, assessed, evaluated, but there's no consequences there's still field testing this year since this is brand new. And then at the last commission meeting in June, they added a non-consequential year. It takes a lot to turn the ship of any IHE. And so they really needed another year to think about all of the processes and procedures and things. So they're adding a non-consequential year, which means every candidate will take all 3 assessments if there's still 3 after the field study. And just like full implementation, but it will not count for their credential. In 2020, which sounds funny, 2019, 2020, will be full implementation as well. Field study is going to be different because they're asking them to do all 3 cycles, and that if they absolutely can't do 3, if they would please do 2. We need to know if it's possible to do 3 cycles within the length of a program. And last year everyone did 1 cycle, so we can't make that decision yet. So that's a really big part of the field study for us.
Nope, nothing turn on.
Wallace grant.
A Wallace grant. There are only 6 institutions in the country that got this Wallace grant to work on administrator preparation. And Doug Fisher at San Diego State is on the design team also. And the work that they're doing is dovetailing with the APA work. In fact, they just held a meeting down in Madeira, right? Mm-hmm. And so you were there. Oh, okay. So that work with the Wallace Foundation is going to really help get these institutions prepared and ready to move over to this assessment.
Okay, so I just want to mention a couple more things, and then we can move on. But
Cheryl, can I quickly mention the content expectations?
Please.
As part of the administrative revisions we have been doing, we did the program standards and then realized that the capsule, which has been the professional standards, were way out of date. So the next year we revised them and brought them up to snuff with current educational trends and policies. Then we realized the performance expectations needed to be aligned better with the capsule and get ready for the performance assessment. And we did that last year. So this year we're doing the final piece, which is the content expectations. And these are what the courses are based upon, the foundational pieces there that went before the commission last meeting in June and got real positive reviews, very minor things that we needed to adjust. So we're bringing it back in September for approval, and then it had a domino effect that 3 of the performance expectations are going to be moved around or replaced with a little bit of wording here and there, but not taking anything new or taking anything away, but just taking redundancy pieces out.
And we are not going to ask the institutions to resubmit anything at this point because they have done a lot already. So that's where we're at with that. I know. So I keep asking Gay, are we done yet? Because I feel like we're pulling the thread and there's always something more. I just wanted to update you on the initial institutional approval process because that was such a large overhaul and where we are with it. Lynette has been amazing working with all these institutions that want to offer programs in California. And so far, the commission has approved, I think, 4 under the new process, and they're in different phases. So Turlock Unified, which is before you today for their program, they have been approved for provisional program status or provisional approval. And then the others have been approved for eligibility. So that is Santa Barbara Unified, Las Virgenes Unified, and Fortune School of Education. Did I get everybody, Lynette? I think that's everybody. Yes, I think that's true. Oh, that's right. Eligibility. So there's a couple more. Sorry about that. I missed that. But so the process is going pretty well. I think the commission really likes talking to the institution early on to get a really good sense of who they are and what they're thinking. We're having a little. It's not a challenge, but we're trying to make sure we separate and keep fidelity to the ed code, which is you all make those decisions about programs. They approve the institution. So poor Terry and I, we try to keep them off of the program pieces and say, no, that's for the COA to discuss. That's for but they can't help it. They want to ask those questions like, what is your thinking on this and that and the other thing? So, so we will, I think it's going pretty well, and it's been a lot of work, but it's starting to pay off now. And I think they really like the process for the most part. So it's going well. And if you want to hear a recent one, Fortune School was just taken last month, or this month, I guess, still. And so that's a good conversation to hear because they really talked about, the philosophy of the school. And this was one, they run charter schools. So they were also trying to figure out the difference between the teacher prep part and the charter school function. So it was a good conversation. I think, Terry, you have something that you want to share?
I do. So this, unfortunately,
can I go ahead of Terry?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. You'll be happy I'm going ahead of you.
Okay,
excellent.
Sorry.
Cheryl asked me to update you on Wiseburn during
that's right.
staff
Thank you.
Reports. Wiseburn was the institution that had pretty much given everything over to a third-party vendor, and you were concerned about their closure. Tomorrow is their last day of being able to recommend students. They have completed, right now there's, I think, 5 students who are at the finish line, and they're very close to being done. Should they not finish, we will put them on a lock list so that they aren't harmed. But Wiseburn is well aware that they will not be, they're closed. The institution is closed as of tomorrow.
Here, here's mine.
Okay. Sharing mics.
Can you give us a sense of when we started the process with Wiseburn?
So we did the first visit. Okay, so this is 17, this is 16, 17. 16. We did the first visit in 14, 15. And what became apparent is that there was kind of a misconception regarding who was in charge. And so you sent us back out to do a second visit, just focused on common standards. When we came back, there were quite a lot of issues with the common standards, and Wiseburn decided to withdraw rather than go through a revisit. And to quote the superintendent, we're not in the business of teacher prep. And so he really didn't understand what it meant to sponsor a program. So anyway, he was very much interested in closing down too. So, but he didn't want to hurt anybody. At the time, they had about 300 students, and so, as of April, they had about 300 students, and so we set them up to not take any further enrollment. It's really a program that can be done on a weekend, and then they taught those folks out, and staff monitored them during this spring. So almost 3 years, I guess, we've been working on this.
So looking at the report was November of 16.
The second report.
Second report. Okay, got it. thank you. I'm not sure why the first report is not online. It should be.
Oh, hopefully it didn't. One didn't supersede the other.
Yeah, we need to.
So we'll fix that.
I'll fix that. Yeah.
Okay.
We have a new website too. I just wanted to mention, and I did hear a couple people like our new website. One of the things that I don't like about our new website is the accreditation reports page is hidden, and we're working on getting that really more prominent. But we had to wait till our IT staff has the time to be able to make some other additional changes. So it's too buried. We need it out in the front. Hey, so I think Terry's good. Terry.
No microphone. So I'm just going to do what I got. Use your microphone. Nope.
I hear one on Deb's, even though the light isn't.
Okay, so this today is our last meeting with one of our co-chairs, Dr. Pia Wong. And it's a really, really bittersweet day in so many ways. So I'm doing this for Mary Sandy because she's in New York with the Wallace Grant. There's a meeting there today. And so Pia Wong was chosen to serve on the COA back in 2009 and has had valuable input in the way the COA and the Commission's accreditation system has evolved since that time. During her 2 terms on the COA, Pia has devoted herself to ensuring that California's TK-12 students are getting the highest quality, best prepared teachers and educators so that they can succeed and our state can thrive. Pia has provided thoughtful and insightful contributions to all COA deliberations over the years. She leaves the Committee on Accreditation having participated in no less than 186 institutional accreditation decisions, not including those scheduled for this meeting. This does not also include the hundreds of program approvals that have taken place in Item 6 over the years. Pia's peers on the COA elected her to serve as the co-chair not once, but twice. Her expertise and problem-solving abilities have been essential to the work of the COA, especially as it's grappled with complex issues and difficult decisions over the years. Dr. Wong has always been steadfast in holding institutions accountable for the educational services that they provide to prospective educators. We would also like to acknowledge Pia for serving on many various work groups over the years. During her 8 years as a member of the COA, Pia has seen significant change to the educational context in which we work and has encouraged the Commission to redefine the notion of accountability. I'd like to talk right here a little bit about the TAP panel, the Teacher Preparation Advisory Panel. Pia was one of the co-chairs, along with Paige Tompkins, and led that work. And we are still working on implementing the recommendations from that TAP panel. The TAP panel had a recommendation that administrators should have a performance assessment. That was way beyond Teacher Preparation Advisory Panel's responsibility, but they said, this is important. The Commission concurred with that and has moved that forward. So a lot of the work we're doing is really based on that TAP panel, which Pia's leadership was essential. Pia, we know that you will continue to be an important part of the educational community in California. We hope that you're able to continue to contribute your talents, expertise, and experience to the Commission's important work to educator preparation in California and other ways. Dr. Wong leads the Committee on Accreditation, the Commission, and the broader educator preparation community in California much richer as a result of her participation. We have a small token of our appreciation, and if you would join me, I would like to present this certificate in honor of your service. Thank you. And we would like to point out that the BIR applications are open, and you are eligible to become a BIR member now.
Let me take a picture.
Yes.
Okay. Get Anna and let's see. Let's get Terry on the outside with her hip because I think that would be good. And Anna,
Cheryl, we need
Cheryl. Yes. Okay.
So you might be on this side.
Yes, I think I want that. Sure.
At the palm.
Matches.
Here, I'll go back here.
Are we close to?
Well, I had to make sure I got the equipment.
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
All right. Pia, did you want to say anything?
I want to say something.
Sat in your
Funny that. Oh, my mic's on now. That's good.
Oh, look, it says mine.
So I am just extremely touched by those thoughtful words, and thinking about 8 years of doing anything is quite an awesome, I guess at our age, though, these things start to get into the double digits versus the single digits. But it's been my distinct pleasure to serve on the COA. I think I'd like to really recognize the staff, an amazingly intelligent group of hardworking people who do their work with integrity, do their work with a focus on the state's children, particularly the most vulnerable, and how we in our systems can make sure that they get the best education possible. So thank you to all of the commission staff. It's been just an amazing education to be able to work with you. So thank you. I also want to thank my fellow committee members. I think you all are some of the most innovative and visionary educators in the state with really, really high standards for the work that you do wherever it is that you do it. And I will continue to think about, now that I'm not on the committee anymore, I can drive you around, and you when you're in for meetings, I can come have lunch with you and not feel so rushed. So please don't forget about me here in Sacramento. I really have enjoyed the time that I have had to get to know you and to understand your work and to trade ideas and to get some moral support when needed, because this work is very can be very challenging, but mostly it's rewarding. And thank you to Anna for being a wonderful co-chair. Believe in yourself, because you bring so much to the table, and it doesn't matter if if the script completely changes on you. You just put on your teacher acting hat and sort of soldier on. So thank you very much for working together with me and organizing my little dinner last night. I really enjoyed that. And I think my last thing I wanted to say was just of course, this morning at like 7:45, I've got all these ideas for fun little gifts, and it's too late to implement any of that. I've been thinking. But I did think, I know all of you bring your own values and your own sort of principles to this work, and luckily we all sort of converged and haven't had too many contentious decisions. But I do think, keep in mind that kid that you worked with at some point in your career who needed something more, or needed something special, or needed an accommodation, or needed just some understanding or a little bit of space. And I think as you go through these program reviews, just make sure that every program is really structured in the best way possible for students like that, to make sure that they have all the opportunities that we can possibly provide them. But thank you very much for dealing with my sometimes not so funny jokes. I try, and for just being a really wonderful group of people to work with. It's been my distinct pleasure. Thank you. And I love my plaque. Okay, so I think now we will move on to item 6. And item 6 is, thank you. Item 6 is the program approval recommendations. The item is organized in 5 sections, and we will move through the items section by section. Please note that this item was updated recently, so you should use the version that is before you at your seats. The italics denote the items that were added most recently. We will take action on sections A, D, and E. Section A is the program approval section. It is a section for action. Today there are 7 new programs for approval. Are there any recusals on section A? All right. So section A includes the, Sacramento County Office of Education, Education Specialist Mild Moderate Intern Program, Biola University, Education Specialist Mild Moderate Intern Program, 1 professional preparation program for administrative services, Credential Clear Induction, Pomona Unified School District, 1 program for professional preparation of preliminary administrative services credential interns, UCLA, 2 bilingual authorization programs for Cal State Chico and for Hmong and Punjabi, and 1 program for professional preparation of pupil personnel services, school counseling, La Sierra University. Do I have a motion?
I'd second.
I have a motion from Member Erickson and a second from Dr. White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Okay, motion carries. We will move now to Section B. Section B covers programs that are transitioning. The items listed are for notification purposes only. Ms. Hickey, did you want to add something about these induction programs that are transitioning?
I do. So the commission adopted teacher induction standards recently, and that would allow institutions to offer the induction program to both ed specialists and general ed. They're the same set of standards. So the thinking was that what needed to be modified, obviously, was what the content was that the teacher is teaching and the support in and around that specific assignment. But the standards are the same. So we've engaged in this process of working with all of the induction programs to figure out how they want to move forward. And so what you have at your table is a list of those programs that are already offering both to general ed and ed specialists the induction program, but are moving to the new teacher induction standards. We have other buckets of induction programs that we're working with now. Those that are gen ed only and only want to offer gen ed in the future, those that are ed specialists only and only want to offer ed specialists in the future, and those that are only offering one or the other and want to offer both. So we're working with those, and you'll see those at your August meeting. But these are the ones who are already offering both and are moving towards, they've given us the information we need to know when and how they're moving forward with continuing to offer both, but under the teacher induction standards. So this is a very long list, so we wanted you to have what that little paragraph reflects is all of these programs. And then in August, you'll see hopefully the remainder of the programs where we'll have the whole understanding of what all induction programs are doing in California. So Terry, did you want to add anything to that?
I think it's such a huge issue that we now have teacher induction standards. Mm-hmm. So a teacher gets inducted into the profession and they only have to do it once. They don't have to do it twice. So getting into this teacher induction is really just, I think, a really good place to be. So we're pretty happy about this. And it will decrease the induction program's annual fees, too, in the future because there'll be one induction program, not two. Right. So that's always good.
Thank you. We will move now to Section C. Section C covers programs moving to inactive status. This section is for notification only. No action is needed. There are 7 program sponsors moving 13 programs to inactive status. All right. Section D is programs requesting reactivation. This section is for action. There are 2 programs requesting reactivation at this time. California State University Long Beach and Escondido Union High School District. In the case of Escondido Union High School District, they needed to submit a transition plan to the new standards in order to be allowed to reactivate. They have done so, and we have reviewed and approved their transition plan. Are there any recusals on this item? In that case, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Member Frelly, and a second by Member Pensabal. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion carries. We now move to Section E, Program Withdrawals. This section is also for action. There are 17 programs by 10 program sponsors requesting withdrawal at this time. Are there any recusals on this item? We have 3 recusals. Okay. Would we still have a quorum if they all recused at the same time?
Yes, I think you're fine.
Okay. So we will move forward then without going one by one. All right. Do I have? Yes.
Can I clarify, Cheryl?
Yes.
Uh-huh. In the fielding graduate and in the patent, are they both requesting that they retain institutional approval?
No, not both. Fielding is, yes. No, it doesn't.
There should be a note next to this. This is the only program that Fielding Graduate University offers. And normally when you withdraw their last program, they would become no longer a sponsor. But similar to Butte County a little bit ago, there should be a footnote here that says they are requesting to remain approved as a sponsor because they would like to think about reactivating this program in the future.
Right.
Right. Not reactivating, resubmitting for the program in the future.
And they would have to go through IPR, Initial Program Review. Now,
IIA.
right. So you probably, and thank you, Terry, for bringing this up, but you'll probably remember that Fielding was the one that has gone for several years without addressing the stipulations because they don't have candidates, right? And Gay and I had a very long conversation with them about what their plan was. And they told us at the time, this was a couple of months ago, that they do plan to have candidates in the fall. So we set up a site visit for the fall and then following up with one in the spring. I think that was in accordance with what you had all asked. And then we find out fairly recently that they still have no candidates for the fall. So we got on the phone, talked to them, and advised them that maybe they just need to withdraw the program and then rethink it, reactivate it once they, or actually go through initial program approval, so that whatever it is that they're doing, we can start the review from scratch. They're starting with new cohorts and all of that. So I don't know what their timeline is for that, but it didn't sound like it was imminent.
Okay. So with that change noted, that there will be added to this item the clarification that Fielding Graduate University is requesting
To retain
withdrawal.
initial institutional approval, though.
Right, withdrawal of the program, but retention of its initial institutional approval, and noting that Member Riggs, Member White, and Member Scahn are recusing themselves. Do I have a motion for Section E? Okay, I have a motion from Member Erickson and a second from Member Borges. All those in favor of Item 6, Section E, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Right on time, too.
Yes.
You're doing good.
So, do we think Item 7 will take 5 minutes?
Good. Possibly.
All right, so we will move on to Item 7, the initial program approval for new program sponsors. Consultant Lynette Roby will present this action item. Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
Yes, thank you. Is this working? Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Okay. So we bring before you for consideration and possible approval Turlock Unified School District's Induction Credential Program. And at the table today with us is Denise Duell, Director from Turlock Unified School District, and she will be available to answer any questions that you might have about the program. So this is the first new program brought to you as part of the newly revised initial institutional approval process. You'll note, first of all, that you received the full copy of the standards document, of Turlock standards document. However, we've also provided you with a feedback sheet that was completed by the BIR, the Board of Institutional Review members who reviewed it. In the future, we don't plan to include the program standards documents that are submitted because we don't really expect you to read the program standards document in their entirety. And again, the reviewers who found the standards to be aligned are BIR trained and are qualified in the subject area. So unless you have questions, the feedback sheet will be provided. The new IIA process was approved by the Commission December 2015 and was, of course, updated February 2016. The initial institutional process now includes 5 stages. So this is sort of just a little recap of what the process includes. It has 5 stages, and the presentation of Turlock's program is part of Stage 3. We've provided a graphic on page 2 of the
Took us a while to get that graphic together. Once we got it together, we're putting it in all the documents
wonderful.
we can.
We rely on that quite a bit. It sort of
Would you like this? Yes,
uncomplicates a complicated process. You will see that Turlock successfully completed Stage 1, which is the preconditions or the prerequisites, and Stage 2, which were the eligibility requirements. In Stage 3, they submitted their preconditions and common standards, which went before the Commission in the June meeting. in the April meeting, April 2017, and Turlock was found to be provisionally approved. And the Commission provisionally approved them for 3 years, which gives them the opportunity to complete at least one cohort, after which they will provide data and there will be a site visit. And at that time, we will bring them back before the Commission, and the Commission will then discern whether or not to approve them for full approval. If they receive full approval, then they go into the regular accreditation cycle. So since they were provisionally approved, we bring you before you their program standards. So as a part of Stage 3, they submitted the responses to the induction standards, which again were reviewed by the Board of Institutional Reviewers, the BIR members. And following some revisions, the standards were found to be aligned. So this is the regular back and forth revision process. So now the standards were found or deemed by the reviewers to be aligned. So a bit about the program. I'm just going to give you a brief overview. Turlock's induction program will be comprised of 2 cycles of inquiry and will include candidate and mentor workshops, online support, individual classroom observations, and coaching from an assigned on-site mentor. An ILP, individualized learning plan, will be used by candidates in the program to goal set and will be modified as the candidates complete classroom observations and practice self-reflection. Each of the 2 cycles of inquiry will be guided by a research question. They call it an inquiry wondering. So I guess you wonder about your inquiry. That is developed by the candidate. And the candidate determines measurable outcomes that he or she hopes to achieve, collects data and evidence, analyzes the data, and then reflects on the inquiry to determine its impact on the students as well as the impact on their own teaching. The candidate then determines the next steps as to his or her growth as a teacher. Given that, I'm going to, staff recommends that the Committee on Accreditation grant initial accreditation for Turlock Unified School District's Induction Credential Program. And again, we have Denise here who is willing and who will answer questions, any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. I remember reading this and thinking, did we ask to see these reports? Because I think maybe at some point we did want to just see a little bit more detail, because sometimes the initial institutional approvals came to us kind of without context. So though it was long and very thorough, I think it particularly with the new pieces of the process, it was helpful to see all the pieces that come behind the staff report. Are there any questions from members of the yes? Member Pensaval.
So I just had one question, and this may seem kind of like a funny question, but on page 4, when in the mentoring section, it said just-in-time support will be provided by mentors. And I know what that means, and I'm wondering if that's what you really want to do and say. Just in time means kind of at the last minute, just in time. And I'm wondering if you talked about proactive kind of support, but what does that mean in the context of your program?
I don't know if it works. I don't think it means that. It may not be working.
It works. The just-in-time support is the support for the candidate when something goes wrong and the candidate needs that immediate support. It's not kind of your ongoing support that they give the candidate all the time. It's oh my gosh, I'm going to have a nervous breakdown. Tell me, what do I do? This is the very first time I'm going to talk to a parent. I don't know what to do. And they walk through that process with them. So I guess I never look at it like it's last minute. The term came about from another program, and I liked it simply because it says, you know what, you can depend on your mentor, whether it's for the long haul or for those scary times that we all had as new teachers.
Member Erickson.
First of all, I loved the tagline, choose civility. So that was great reading through that. Just 2 questions. How many candidates do you anticipate? And my second question is about the professional learning communities process and how, because you talked about measuring the CSTPs through the PLC, and I was just wondering how that was going to be monitored and evidenced and assessed so that you know that all of your candidates are meeting the CSTPs.
So, remind me the first question. That's okay. Okay. We are anticipating 38 candidates this year. It may go up as we're not quite in July yet, so it might go up. But right now, 38, and that is year 1 and year 2, and including the special ed. And then as far as the CSTPs in the PLC process, on the ILP map, there is a place for documenting growth on the CSTPs, and we use the PLC as just one way that they can provide evidence of growth, because in those PLCs, they're discussing their individual data and what's happening in their classrooms as well as what's happening in the group's classrooms.
Co-Chair Moore.
Congratulations on getting this far. This represents so much work, and it's so well done and very thorough. Obviously, you've been in touch with many colleagues who are doing the induction programs, and you've really picked out some of the top practices that successful programs are using. My comment was really based on this concern that the readers had with regards to FACT and using FACT. I'm a big proponent of FACT because what it does when you use it, for anybody who's not familiar with it, FACT is aligned with the CSTPs. So if you use FACT in its entirety, you are ensuring in one way that the candidates are all meeting the CSTPs. We called them, when I was in induction, guardrails. And within those assignments or activities, there is flexibility for the candidate to adjust to their personal areas of identified growth and strengths. And so I wondered also, I do know that you can modify FACT to better align with your own program. And I wondered, had you done any modifications of the FACT documents? I'm not sure where they are these days with regards to modifications within themselves, but
so this has been quite a journey, and originally I understood this to be kind of taking the FACT and modifying it to fit our program, and that was the direction in which I went. But as I received feedback, the feedback was primarily, you know what, this is too much FACT, take FACT out. So what I decided to do was, FACT does have some really great areas. I'm going to use pieces of that in our seminars. Part A has candidates looking at their classroom, the people actually in their classroom, and identifying some strengths, some weaknesses. We're going to use that on our first seminar, and we'll go from there. My observation sheets, because the candidates do observations of teachers, and also the mentors obviously do observations of the candidates, and those I design pretty much off of FACT. So,
okay, thanks.
I think I also used some of the guiding questions.
Thank you.
Okay. So are there any other questions? All right. So this is an action item, and the recommendation is for approval for initial accreditation. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Member Borges, I have a motion by Member Borges, and I have a second from Member Frelly. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. All right, the motion carries, and congratulations.
Yes. First one.
Yay. Good job.
We will now move to item 8. Nope, we will move to item 9, which is the report of the revisit team to Alliant University. I know that we have members of the institution who are here. If they'd like to come join us at the table, we would appreciate that. Consultant Bob Locks will introduce this item, and he will be joined by institutional representatives Dr. Donna Block, Patty Mullen, and Dr. Mary Olangsise. I believe we have members joining us via Zoom from the institution, Dr. Tracy Heller and team lead Donna Elder, who will present the team findings. Is Donna on camera, or can she hear us? Yes, okay, perfect. Is there anyone who needs to recuse themselves? Okay, then Mr. Locks, will you begin, please?
Certainly. Good morning. And the very first thing I'd like to do is I made a small mistake on the very bottom of page 1 where it talks about changing the status move. It's from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation. That should have been accreditation with probationary stipulations to accreditation. And that was just my fault. I don't know how I put the wrong thing on there.
So can you say that one more time? Because I don't think I heard you correctly.
Okay. On the very bottom of page 1, the very last line, status move from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditations. Instead of major stipulations, it should have said probationary stipulations.
Okay, to accreditation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The way I heard you the first time was you were going from major to probationary, but you're saying from
No.
It's just read probationary to accreditation.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Want to make that clear.
Okay.
It's different.
Okay, we had a revisit to Align International University in April of this year, and the visit went extremely well, and we were called back because, or we went back for the revisit due to the fact that in their original visit they had 7 common standards that were either not met or met with concerns, and 10 program standards that were not met or met with concerns. So that was the reason for the revisit. And with that, I will have Dr. Donna Elder, who is the team lead, will give a further explanation.
Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. First, I want to thank Alliant University, especially Dean Mary Zizzy Oling and Provost Tracy Heller for setting up our revisit. The revisit was well organized and well set up, and we want to thank everyone at Alliant, administration, staff, and faculty for all that they did to make the revisit go smoothly. We were there on April 25th and 26th. I want to also thank my team members, Colleen Kern and Judy Silva, for all of their work on the team. The team found that Alliant administration, faculty, and staff immediately started work after our visit in 16. Dr. Mary Oling Sissy was appointed dean. She was interim at the point of our visit, our original visit. She immediately worked on forming a team to work collaboratively on addressing all stipulations. She had full support of the university and worked very closely with the provost, Dr. Tracy Heller. As the COA saw from their quarterly reports, they chronicled their progress, and they made substantial progress throughout the year. It was clear to the team through interviews, documents, and the self-study that systems were put in place to address all of the stipulations stated in April 16, as well as all of the common standards that were not met, as well as program standards that were not met. As we visited, we determined that infrastructure had been put in place to support all of those issues that were of concern. There was a clearly articulated vision, and that leadership was provided throughout the school. Throughout our meetings with faculty and staff, it was apparent that there was now a cohesive vision that could be stated by everyone. Even students understood how they were moving forward under the new vision. In February, the assessment plan was fully developed, and an assessment system through TaskStream had been implemented. In February, a director of assessment was hired for the unit. Through interviews with administration, staff, and faculty, it was apparent that assessment is taken seriously and used to monitor candidate progress as well as program success. Advisory boards have been established for programs and provide feedback on both the candidates, program successes, and areas for improvement. Clear protocols have been established for field work and clinical practice in all programs to ensure that all candidates have the skills and knowledge to support their students effectively. The selection criteria for district employed supervisors has been established and clearly stated and is being implemented with fidelity. The training There's training in place for supervisors, and they meet continually through with the university and have feedback. The team observed and was able to document that the California School of Education at Alliant University has established cohesive working team that addressed all stipulations, and that all common standards and program standards, except Common Standard 2, which was met with concerns. And our concerns were that we only had, and were only able to look at one round of assessment data, and that really for that standard to be met, we needed to be able to see that it was continually being done at least across a year of data. At this point, the team recommends full accreditation for Alliant University, and that all stipulations be removed, and that the program standards have all been met, and the common standards except for Standard 2, which was met with concerns. And that would be what we are recommending to the COA.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Elder. At this point, I'd like to invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the revisit and the recommendation. We remind you that this is not a time to re-argue the team report. Who would like to begin?
Thank you for having us here today. We really appreciated the guidance that was provided first by William.
Yes, it is. So you want to get a little bit closer to the microphone?
We really appreciated the guidance that was provided first by William and then followed by Bob. It was very helpful to get their feedback as we worked through our progress reports. And the process was incredibly a great learning experience for all of us at the university, including the other schools at the university. And so we very much appreciated the support of the commission through this journey.
Thank you, Dr. Oling-Cisse. This is an action item. Are there any questions for discussion? Yes, Member Briggs.
I had a question about the number of candidates that were interviewed and how they were chosen as to represent, I think it's 6 areas where you offer your program. Is that right?
So the candidates were randomly selected. It was just a casting call for the candidates from each of the programs to join. We invited about 15 students for each of the sessions for the interviews. So I'll let Dr. Eldridge report on how that went.
We had a variety of candidates from programs and felt that from what we heard from the different candidates that we were able to make a decision of the changes that had been made in the programs to serve the candidates. And we did 15 candidates were interviewed.
May I ask a follow-up? Yes. I wondered if those candidates were candidates that had they probably had not completed, or had they completed? Were they just new candidates to the program? How did that work?
No, they were. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They were candidates who were continuing in the program. They were primarily not new candidates. So they were candidates that had prior experience with what had gone on the prior year.
Thank you.
Are there other questions from members?
I had a few clarifying questions. Nice work. I know this was a huge endeavor to take this on, and it's really terrific that you put together a team and got right to it. I just have a few clarifying questions about some of the outcomes of the revisit. On page 10, it mentions that you collected data at the end of each 8-week term. And in correlation, you're thinking about the sustainability of the assessment system. I'm wondering what was done with that data once you collected it, and where are you thinking about changing your system so that it is sustainable over time?
So the data currently is collected into TaskStream, And we have an assessment committee that is meeting monthly and reviewing the data systematically for each program. And so every time a term ends, we have a meeting that goes through the data and goes through not only what the data is saying to us, but looks at program modifications and the rationale for modifications. The data is also shared with the advisory boards in terms of how they could provide their input in helping improve the programs to close the loop. So we have actually implemented a few program improvements to support candidates. One of the key areas was to front load the TPEs earlier in candidates' careers, and that was a result of looking at the data. We are also disaggregating the data based on the various programs, the eco students, as well as other programs to make sure that we are tending to the unique needs of the students in the various programs. At this point, we're very confident with this system structure that we've created, which allows us to have an infrastructure that does not change regardless of whether we change course sequencing, but is something that is stable for the long run.
Terrific. That's great. Okay, a couple more. Community groups on page 11. I know this was an important piece. Could you talk about the partnerships? What community groups have you reached out to and had success with?
So we have groups ranging from the school districts, school boards. We have relationships with other institutions of higher education that we talk with regularly and compare best practices. We also have some what I would call community organizations that have, for example, daycare centers and those types of organizations that are education related. So we're reaching out to a variety of community groups to continue to refresh our advisory boards, but also to get fresh ideas of how to improve the programs.
Great. Thank you. 2 more questions. Just had a lot on this. Let's see. On page 12 at the bottom, it seemed like one of the important things that you mentioned was revising the lesson plan template that all of the faculty are using. Could you speak to that a little bit? What revisions did you do on that piece?
So I'll start a little bit and then I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Block. So one of the key elements in our improvement was the development of the co-creation of a conceptual framework. And in the conceptual framework, we identified a set of competencies that we expect our candidates to have. And those competencies are aligned with the CTC standards as well as with the program standards. And so all of those are transferred in terms of preparing the lesson plans for the students. So I'm going to let Dr. Block comment on it.
Can you repeat the question? I know what you're saying, but I just want to make sure
the revisions to the lesson plan.
Okay.
Template, just looking for some detail on that.
Okay, so the revisions weren't major revisions. We do focus on assessment and making sure that anything that we learn through assessing our students or our K-12 students are revisited in the next lesson. We also are encouraging them our teacher candidates to use a lot of technology in their course, in their
a real update, which is good. Those were great revisions. Last question, I promise. On the bottom of page 13, it states that site mentors report that the training is adequate but could be more robust and differentiated to the different school settings. And I'm wondering what steps you might be taking to address that concern.
I can address that. We are going to get together with our advisory boards and ask them what would be useful for you. and get their input. And it is on the Canvas learning management system, so it's very easy to adjust and to add to it. So even though it is new, it's a newer mentoring training, we are open to anybody's input so that we can make it better and tailor it for the school districts as to what they want.
So still working on that piece.
Yes,
Yeah.
and happy for the input from everyone.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Pensaval?
Bless you.
Thank you.
So could you just clarify that a little bit more for me, please?
Do you want to address it?
Well, one thing that happens, I'll try to answer your question. If not, give me some feedback. So we do have the accountability officers who take the data that occurs at the end of every term. They analyze it, and it's all posted in TaskStream. It's also shared. So that could be, it could be means, it could be distributions, it could be disaggregations, and there are some suggestions made about what the data might mean or different areas that might be looked at. So that's the kind of data that it's then taken to the accountability unit meetings on a monthly basis and discussed by the faculty and the program directors, so that then there's a sense of what did this data that was at the end of this term mean. And they can also, all of the data for the terms are posted by competency, TPE, outcome in the in TaskStream. And so then they can see if it's changed over time, if the third term is different than the second term, or how the fourth term looks. We also have evaluations for some programs that are done at the end of one term, sort of as a midway for the entire year, and then at the end of the last term in the spring. And so we can compare, how were they halfway through, how were they further, and then we try to look at what we think all that means. Also in TaskStream, there's an improvement plan section where at the end of every academic year we'll be documenting an improvement plan. So here were the 5 things that we thought ought to be done. Here were the 3 things we've already done, and here are the 3 things left to do next year. Is that helpful at all?
I guess I just had one more clarifying question, and that is, do you get feedback from your students, your candidates? That's a lot of numbers, and I'm really familiar with TaskStream, and I understand how it works, but are there multiple sources?
Well, I can give you an example.
Can you use the mic if it's available?
Just a couple of days ago, we had an assessment meeting, and what our accountability officer brought up to us that was really exciting was that at the beginning of the calendar year, many of our teacher candidates weren't turning in their key assessments, and that was a problem. So we sent out a survey to the students and asked them, what support do you need? Do you feel you're getting enough support? And a few days ago when we had a report, we were up to approximately 96% people turning in, and they wanted to know what was different. What have we been doing differently? What's changing to make this number go higher? And so we were talking about the different things that we had done. For example, more communication. A website was created for multiple and single subject teacher candidates so that they can get any information they need. I'm really big on communication, so I send out a lot of communication to our teacher candidates, and I'm hoping that has made a difference. But that's just an example of how we are using that data to make improvements. And when you get good news like that, it makes you want to work even harder to make it even higher. So it's exciting. And I don't know if I've answered your question yet. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Dr. White.
First of all, I'd like to say congratulations. It looks, it's very evident that you guys have worked very hard in trying to address the concerns that came up for the first site visit. My question is on page 14. and it's regarding the field work that you have your students do. At the bottom of 14, it says for intern candidates who are not placed in a site with a special population. You said there's a procedure to have them to have adequate number of hours in these settings. First of all, can you define what you mean by special population, and then a little bit about the procedure you have in place to make sure they get the experience that they need?
Okay, so the special populations that we're looking at are English language learners, low socioeconomic status students, and also students with special needs. And we expect the placement to have 10% of each of those populations. And so if there is not 10% in each of those populations, for every percentage point there is below, they need to spend 2 days in a school that has that population to do observations, so that we make sure they get that
experience. Yes.
Perfect.
Member Briggs?
Just that comment right there suggests to me that you really have worked with your districts, because when somebody gets employed as an intern, I'm sure it's difficult to get the district to release them to get that experience elsewhere. And I just also wanted to comment about the evidence, I think, related to, I think it's Standard 8, where you've changed so much about the selection and the training for your district employed supervisors and how much work you've done, which again, maybe you could even highlight more as evidence of your participation with your partners, because so much has happened there. And it really looks, I'd like to know how you accomplished some of this, honestly, because it looks very strong. So, thank you.
Are there other comments or questions from COA members? Okay, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Okay, I have a motion from Member Fraley and a second from Member Forbes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion carries. A big congratulations to Alliant University. We know this has been a lot of work, but we're gratified to hear from you that it feels like work that was worth doing, and that you clearly have a program that's on its, very, very strong. So thank you to Dr. Block, Ms. Mullen, Dr. Alling-Cisse, Dr. Heller, Dr. Elder, and Mr. Laux. We appreciate your time.
Very much.
Sounds like it was good for the whole institution.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to item 10. We have a time certain for item 10, the report of the Accreditation Revisit Team for Vallejo City Unified School District. Consultant Karen Sacramento will introduce this item.
She's making her way up.
Yes. And she will be joined at the table by institutional representatives Dr. Edison Kelly, Jessica Brown, and Sherry Centers.
So I guess we just have one.
Or one of those people.
We're good. I think the last two aren't probably aren't going to be here. They're not.
Okay, so who do we have with us here in person?
We have Jessica Brown.
Jessica Brown. Okay, and then joining the meeting electronically will be the team lead, Julie Sheldon.
There she is.
Does anyone need to recuse themselves? So, Vallejo City Unified. All right. Ms. Sacramento, will you begin, please?
I will. Good morning. It's nice to be back. So this is the report for the Vallejo City Unified School District Revisit, which was held on March 23rd and 24th. And this revisit was directed by the COA as the follow-up to the spring 2016 site visit. It was a thorough and in-depth one-year outlook at the Vallejo City induction program, and was focused on the stipulations from the initial site visit and report. And in addition to holding the revisit and the plans for that up until that point, I also worked with program leadership regularly throughout the year as they developed and implemented an action plan and processes to address the stipulations, and that full action plan is included in the item. So I would like to acknowledge Jessica Brown, the Vallejo City Unified School District Teacher Induction Program Coordinator, and really give her some kudos for her leadership in stepping into the role this year, and a new position, and really working diligently to not only figure out the lay of the land in her new position, but address the concerns from this report. And clearly, in working with her throughout the year, I've been able to see her strong guidance within the program as they did address the stipulations and also move to new induction standards and receive technical assistance around a very different set of induction standards based in the mentoring system and the individualized support. And then also the district leadership, Sherry Summers and Dr. Edison Kelly, as well, for their openness and commitment to supporting new teachers. I would also like to note the tremendous level of professionalism and insight that Julie Sheldon has brought to this work as the team lead for over a year now, as we worked together before the initial visit, on the visit last spring, and then on the revisit and follow-up. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Julie for her portion of the report.
All right. Thank you, Karen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Wonderful. I also want to echo Karen in thanking the Vallejo City USD leadership. They were tremendously welcoming, and they worked very hard and took the job of meeting the stipulations very seriously. And in appointing Jessica Brown as the coordinator, they made an excellent choice. She jumped right in, and she had a tall task ahead of her, because not only was she very focused on meeting these stipulations, but in also looking at the previous standards and transitioning to the new standards. So I really want to commend her for her commitment to that. I also want to thank Karen for her guidance and her leadership throughout the entire process, the visit, the year intervening, and the revisit. I think she was a tremendous help to the program. I know she was to me in guiding them forward in addressing each of these stipulations. So as to those stipulations, the first one was regarding making sure that the institution had a comprehensive evaluation system. At our previous visit, there was an evaluation system that did not address all stakeholders and was only one type. And throughout the year, Jessica has put in place different types of evaluation, different formats. She has also made sure to make sure those evaluations were addressed to all stakeholders, including site administrators, candidates, mentors, leadership, advisory board. So not only did she put a lot in place, but in the action plan that Karen spoke of, there is already plans to increase the number of evaluations. And we also saw evidence of some of those evaluations already being implemented as program modifications. The advisory board also gave interview evidence of the analysis they've made of that data and the different kinds of program modifications they were going to be making as a result of that data. So we saw that comprehensive system being put in place, and also plans for continuing to increase that. And stipulation 2 addressed a process for ongoing training and calibration of the support providers. And Vallejo City has a very unique support provider model, in that they only have retired teachers as their support providers. And so the team felt this was extremely important, that they were trained consistently and in an ongoing manner. And the team, revisit team, found quite a bit of evidence that there was not only consistency in the training, but that it is ongoing throughout the year, as led by the induction coordinator. Stipulation 3 also addressed the faculty, in that they'd be trained, qualified, and collaborate with members of the broader community, and have a thorough understanding of the public schools. And again, because of that unique model, this was really important that the support providers understand the context of the teachers that they were supporting. And so I want to commend Vallejo District for not only allowing these mentors to participate in the professional development along with their candidates, but also to welcome them to training on the standards, the Common Core standards, the NGSS, and making sure that these mentors do have a broad understanding of the district's goals and objectives, and it mirrors what the candidates are getting. And then stipulation 4 was that we have the revisit, and as Karen mentioned, it was on March 23rd and 24th of 2017. And as a result of this revisit and of the evidence we collected both from the excellent website that Jessica created and the evidence that was submitted to us at the site visit and the interviews as well, the team would like to recommend that the stipulations from the 2016 visit be removed and that the accreditation decision be changed from accreditation with stipulations to full accreditation. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to invite the institutional representative to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you that this is not a time to re-argue the team report. So, Ms. Brown, you may begin.
Yes, and good morning, everyone. I would like to just thank you for this opportunity to speak. This process was, in hindsight, just a really good process for a first-year induction coordinator coming in, because it gives you right, it gives you the opportunity to really understand the induction program, and it also forces you to understand it pretty quickly. And so I appreciate that process, looking at the old program and then going forward and creating something new. I would like to take the opportunity also to thank Karen and Julie for their guidance throughout this process. I like to be as organized as possible, and they welcomed just the opportunity to give them things early on just to get that feedback. So I appreciate you giving me feedback along the way as we went through this process. And thank you again.
Thank you. At this time, are there any questions or comments from committee members? Yes, Member Erickson.
Thank you, and congratulations on all of the work that you've accomplished over the past year. On page 6 of your report, you talk about creating action plans for Common Standard 2, the unit and program assessment and evaluation. Could you talk about what plan you put in place for collecting data, how you analyze that data, and then how you utilize that to ensure candidate competency and program efficacy?
Absolutely. One of the initial tasks I had coming on was to reorganize our Leadership Advisory Council, and I was very happy. I had a lot of support from our administrators, from teachers, from our HR staff, and we were able to have a really great Leadership Advisory Council. So that's one component of it. And one of the things we did is ensuring that all of our stakeholders were surveyed in different ways. That of course included our administrators and included our teachers, included some of our district staff as well, and our community as well. And then once we got that information, we used different forms of surveys, looking at, and by the way, I love to analyze data. I'm an old math background person, so analyzing data is something that I love to do. And so I created a document that we would look at the data. We would look at it through the lens of, for example, the teacher survey. We look at it through the lens of the teachers, and we would look at, well, based on what we are looking at, what's working well? What changes do we need to make? And so we would go through that process and looking at the data individually and then collectively as a group, and we would record that data. And from that data, create an action plan. So at the end of the meeting, we would discuss what are the next steps. And that's how the action plan and the action items would look like. That's actually how we created the action plan in general that you're looking at is collectively. And so then we actually come back. So we have a point in time where we come back and we look at those actions and next steps. Thank you.
So just to clarify, you're looking at more data than just the teacher survey.
That is correct.
Can you talk about the types of data you look at?
Absolutely. So in addition to, we looked at the support provider data as well. We looked at analysis. They also provided us feedback and surveys. Similarly, our administrators were able to complete surveys and provide us with feedback as well. So we looked at that data, and then we determined what we needed to do as a program to make sure that we were meeting the needs of everyone in general of the program.
Do you aggregate data from the individualized learning plans?
That is correct. We also do that, and that's something that's happening. Well, this year it happened twice this year as a group. So we did during our mid-year and then end of the year where we look at it. But for myself, we partnered with the New Teacher Center. So our teachers are inputting that information, their learning plans and other information, their collaborative assessment logs. And I look, weekly, I'm looking at what they're actually writing. And it allows me also to provide feedback initially so they can in real life see what I'm typing in on their documents. In addition to our support providers also did their own logs as well. So they are also inputting information directly with me, and we're communicating that way.
Are there other comments or questions? This is an action item. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Second. Woo. I have a motion by Dr. White, and I have a second from Member Erickson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay. Well, congratulations, Ms. Brown and Vallejo City Unified. I'd say you hit a home run on your very first time at bat, so good luck. And your second year should be quite easy. All right. Thank you to everyone. I think we should, so we have an 11 o'clock time certain, but probably can we take a quick 5-minute break and then try to get a little bit caught up on, okay, so see you back here at 10 to 11.
They're going to sign on 5 minutes before 11.
Okay, and we have School for the Deaf, which we can kind of, I don't think we have personnel for that one. Where's Bob? I don't know where Bob is. Bob, is it just you or?
There may have been somebody that was going to be on the phone.
Okay, all right. So we have School of the Deaf first.
Before,
according to the agenda.
Katie,
not
trends and patterns. The last had concerns.
Yeah, 11 and then 12.
Oh. So do you want me to tell them maybe 10 minutes after 11?
People how to do it here, do it here, and do it.
Vanguard?
Which one? When I look at you, it reminds me of my husband because
That's so weird. I don't like that. Yeah.
A lot of
I don't like that.
I'll just text them and tell them.
the other eye.
Yeah,
have one.
Miss his eyes and your eyes.
Okay. All right.
Well, it is. You have regular meetings, but they also, like, if a crisis comes up.
Roll your chair back to the
Oh, sure. Say there were crisis. She's kind of like that. Well, for a new teacher, things.
my jacket because I don't know what the crisis temperature in this room is going to be, and I've been here sometimes and it's very cold.
Warm today.
Yeah.
A lot of our induction program uses it. I don't know. They got it from some cognitive coaching or something. Yeah.
Okay, so did those questions make sense?
I mean, kind of. I don't know really what the question is. At least on the first one. As far as.
I don't know. I was trying to think of I think that's a little bitty.
Can they teach the chemistry of the earth?
Oh,
I
like
got it
the
from
course
the
model.
again.
Yeah, because basically they
Our regular meetings, I need
CSET subtests. So maybe they have the foundation.
What's the
IO.
expression? I didn't want to
Just
So
in
they would be authorized.
Just
Okay,
that's
which
not
is really
clear on
just
that
spontaneously. If you have, say you have a new teacher that
It makes it seem like they
maybe had a disagreement with a colleague and they were stressing out because they're new and
if they were
they need
teaching
help right now.
chemistry, because
So
their
that's just
full
in time.
authorization is just in chemistry.
It's a phrase,
They
and
can't teach the chemistry of
I think there was maybe some
Well, but okay.
maybe
so
in a cohort training or something that
primary
was
focus
presented
chemistry
as
there, and then you got
teaching
cross
strategy or
cutting
something.
And then it's
right?
stuck.
And so
Yeah.
that
And
is
it's
just
become a thing.
Yeah.
secondary.
That's
to it.
become a
That's
thing,
covered by
exactly.
the foundational level in the biology. So
Interesting.
so
I hadn't
second-
heard it.
Second question. Here.
So the full
I'm not in that thing
bio
world.
No, you're not.
with
None in
the
and she's
supplementary
And-
and chemistry.
Well, of course, they say they have the specialized chemistry.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, because I couldn't hear.
so that, I mean, even though they don't technically
I
have,
don't think they have anybody.
they would have it. I mean, they could apply for it.
Yeah.
Have it.
No, there's nobody.
Because they already have that CSET subtest.
I know.
And that's
I
actually
know.
the case with the second
Oh.
one, too.
So a full in anything.
Full in anything can do.
Are they in that box?
No, for example, in that
I have a friend who uses that
So,
expression.
we have
And I think
biology.
That was
Okay.
my only guess.
Right.
I know. And sometimes that cliches actually, like your
bio
cliches or
with,
buzzwords. And I just
geoscience,
feel like there's
cross-cutting,
something
they have
more.
chemistry.
But if they have
A little
like
more
full
genuine
in
or-
something else,
Kind of like
full in something else, and then the specialized one that is the primary component of the course, they can teach that course.
Yeah, and that would be the
Okay.
case if they had
How are you?
specific supplementary or specific organization as well. If they just had a foundation
Exactly.
credential and then just had a supplementary and say specific like a specific supplementary authorization in chemistry, they would be doing theirs too.
If they, what was the first part of what you said?
If they even if they just had a foundational level general sciences credential, but then they had a supplementary section in chemistry, they would
Okay, and do we have the school for the deaf people?
So they can teach whatever their specialized credential is in. So they could teach chemistry of the earth.
Yeah, so if you're going based off of the course model, chemistry the chemistry
Because I don't think we're running.
area that they have already for specific supplementary.
And that integrated part of the earth is covered by their full bio or the
Right, the foundation.
Okay. Okay. And then what was your second question? And I think the problem is that she's not a conduct. So she's not understanding the intricacies of the new course model, and so I don't know. Let's see. Okay. So the second question is, if someone has a subject matter authorization in any science area,
Is that somebody with?
oh, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, so, yes.
Okay,
exactly.
perfect.
Okay, which is good.
So in both instances, the answer would be yes.
Okay. Her.
Yeah, you're
That
welcome.
helps us. And we only have like 6 because we're getting rid of
Oh, yeah.
like
That's a
integrated.
good idea. I forgot about that.
We
Okay.
have like 6
I should have let you know yesterday. I just didn't even think about it.
I was wrecking my brain.
I mean, as much as they say they can just go take the one semester abroad.
There is me.
Okay, so both Vanguard and School for the Deaf are on, it appears. So it looks like the Laura Peterson from School for the Deaf is on, from what I can tell. Her name is popping up. Do you know anything about it? Hold on. That's all it takes?
You have Mickey Gill and Sylvia.
So
for me.
on.
So 20, and can they be undergrad?
Is Laura Peterson? She's the School for the Deaf. I don't know why it's not.
Division and lower division.
Okay.
And then
Yes.
if it's just upper division, it'd be 10.
Will you look into that and let me know?
Yeah, I'll definitely do it.
Okay, perfect.
Electronically.
This, like,
yes. I know nothing about this.
like,
Oh, this woman has got to wait. She's a pain in the butt.
okay, that explains a lot.
She wants approval for something she did before the program is even approved. So tell her it is not approved yet. Just tell her it's not yet approved.
You know,
She's trying to cheat.
I had a question.
Uh-huh.
And maybe it's better answered later at the end. But for fielding, they said they want to retain their status,
Yes.
even though they don't have class.
Right.
How long can they be in this limbo state?
Well, we'll work with them, but we won't let them go any more than a few years.
Okay.
We don't have that in writing in any way.
Right.
Okay, friends, if we could resume our meeting, you will all appreciate it at the end of the day.
Please take it. Sorry, I wish I would have given it to you earlier.
I don't know.
School for the Deaf is on, and Vanguard, so we can do them both. Boom, boom.
Should we do them right now then?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right, so we haven't done item 8.
Yeah, we can come back. to that
Okay,
one.
all right.
That's just staff.
So we are now engaging with item 11. Item 11. So we're going to resume the meeting with item 11, the recommendation to remove stipulations for the California School for the Deaf. Consultant Bob Locks will present this action item. Mr. Locks, will you begin, please?
Certainly. Our site visit for California School for the Deaf was April of 2016, and at that, and then it went to the COA in June of 2016, where you assigned the status of accreditation with stipulations due to the fact that there were 2 common standards that were not met. And those were Common Standards 2 Unit and Program Assessment and Common Standard 3 Resources. Through the 5 stipulations that were given to the institution, they have fulfilled them all, including their quarterly reports that have been addressed to the commission and were all accepted by the commission. And so with that, the COA, we ask that the COA accept the report, their 7th year report from the California School for the Deaf, and change its accreditation status from accreditation with stipulations to accreditation.
Okay, thank you. This is an action item, and I'd like to invite any members at this point to ask questions of Mr. Locks. Member Erickson.
Bob, we have an institutional rep online, right?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'm just trying to declare.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, but you can't see me, correct?
We can't see you. We're so sorry. Who is this?
Laura, can you see me now?
Now we can see you, yes.
Ah.
Okay, this is Laura Peterson from the School for the Deaf. I'm the Director of Instruction.
Hi, Laura. I'm so sorry to have not recognized you there. Please take a few moments to briefly comment about the visit and the recommendation, but this is not a time to re-argue the team's decision.
Okay, I'm not sure exactly what you need from me. I've never done this before. This is our first visit. So what exactly do you need me to report out on?
I think you can just share some very brief impressions of the experience, and any additional information you might want to add, though I think with such a positive recommendation, you may not have anything really to add.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me to the meeting. We had a really nice visit, and what you need to understand about the school is that we have approximately 100 teachers, and at any given time in our program, we may have from only 2 to 5 participating teachers. So our program is very small and very specific because we deal with teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing exclusively, which allows us to really tailor our program and our support for teachers directly to our student population. All of our students are deaf. The visit was great because we needed to get ourselves organized, get all of our information in one place, which we have done online. And we needed to make sure that our support providers had the support and training that they needed, which we were able to provide.
Okay, thank you very much. Member Erickson has a question.
On page 5, the stipulation was that the California School for the Deaf must provide evidence of the implementation of a comprehensive program evaluation, including program participants, completers, and stakeholders. As I looked through the establishment of a formal advisory council, it looked like all of that membership, the membership consists of personnel from the California School of the Deaf. Are there any outside stakeholders or clientele that have been invited to be part of that feedback loop?
Well, we've always, when we set up the program, we work with Cluster 2 staff. So now we work with school districts in our surrounding area in order to compare our programs and give us feedback. We also receive valuable feedback from the visit. We are pretty insular, I have to say, because we are a highly specialized program. But we work with local university programs. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question exactly the way you want me to, but we work with various teacher training programs, Gallaudet University, UC San Diego, to work with our teachers.
So I guess the question would be, how do you use that feedback to improve your program and ensure that your teachers are doing what they need to do and and your support providers have the tools and skills that they need of not just what's happening inside the program, but how do you bring that information into the program for best practices?
Okay, our support providers are all teacher specialists at the school, so they serve dual roles. They are not only business support providers, but they also, and induction support providers, but they also do mentoring of all of our new teachers to the school. We have provided them training in how to mentor teachers. We provided them coaching, training. We also use, of course, all the standards for the teaching profession, but we also have developed for our school what we call Standard 7, which is instruction specifically for deaf and hard of hearing students. And to develop that standard, we have used information from various universities, information from written resources related to best practices for deaf students. And we also provide bilingual professional training on campus for American Sign Language and English bilingual education, and we have received support from Gallaudet University on the best practices within that field, and developed a rubric measurement for each teacher based on best practices for deaf and hard of hearing students, specifically, well, all classroom practices, but really focused on bilingual theory and literacy for deaf and hard of hearing kids. So we've now used that rubric to measure the competency of teachers, participating teachers, but also if our support providers need any training with that, we send them to Gallaudet University or to various trainings in the area on coaching.
So it sounds like you're gathering that data or that feedback. Is there any systematic way that you invite that feedback on a regular basis from the same participants over time?
We have gathered feedback specifically from our participating teachers. There's been a survey developed with the Likert scale. We meet with our committee, our leadership committee, which consists of the supervisors and principals of the various teachers. And our coordinator goes to trainings with local programs, school districts, and also attends mentoring training.
Thank you. And just one more question. Last time we met with you, we discussed the budget, and the budget did not seem to be adequate at that time. Could you speak a little bit about whether or not the budget line is adequate and that you feel that there is enough funding there to support providers and for the preparation of new teachers, their induction?
I don't know if the budget wasn't adequate or if it was not delineated sufficiently. We have a very different funding structure. We are not funded like a school district. We're funded as a state agency. So the director of instruction gets a certain amount of funding for the year, and that includes staff development, training for the support providers, training for participating teachers. It includes materials and supplies, but you won't see a separate line item for payment of mentors, payment of support providers, because they're state employees and they don't get any kind of stipend for what they do. It's part of their job duties. It's written into their regular their job duties. So it's different than at a public school. There's not a specific necessarily budget for the program because it is integrated into all of the other efforts that the Division of Instruction do. We don't have a district office with curriculum specialists. We do it on campus. And so the curriculum specialists are also the mentor teachers who are also the support providers. So you won't see a separate line item for payment or stipends. What we've done is met with the business office and ensured there's adequate funding for training within the staff development budget. And we've met with the business office manager to ensure that director of instruction funds can be used for materials, supplies, and training. And then the business office tracks how much of those funds we need and ensures that we have what we need to support the program sufficiently. Thank you.
Member Pensabal?
Are these working?
I think so.
I think so.
On, I think.
Okay. Thank you. It's very clear that a lot of work went into this added information for us, so thank you very much. I just had one question on the fourth quarter report, and it said that your principals were directly supervising your participating teachers, but I did hear you say that you had mentor teachers that were working with the teachers. So I'm wondering who plays what role and what the interplay is there.
Okay. When teachers come on board here at CSD, we often feel that they need more specialized training. So we have 3 programs already established for new teachers. Their first year, they come in, they have 1 year of new teacher mentoring provided by teacher specialists who observe them in class, help them set goals, and give them an orientation to various topics such as grading, classroom management, and that lasts for a year. Here, all of our teachers take bilingual professional development training where they learn about ASL and English dual language development and best practices. Those who are clearing a credential then go into the VITSA program where they receive obviously support from their support providers. So we already have a broad scope of mentoring. Now, the supervisors, principals, or coordinators, they're called depending on the department, they, as part of their annual evaluation, sit down with the teacher at the beginning of the year and they review all of the 6 standards and our 7th standard that we've developed. They choose 3 to work on throughout the year, and teachers keep records of what they've done, the activities that they have done to address those areas. Principals observe and document progress, and then at the end of the year, teachers document all the progress they've made on those goals. What we do with the people who are working on their credentials is we make sure that those two processes overlap, so that the principal or supervisor of the teacher is working with the mentor on the same goals and observing the same thing. The support provider is not part of the evaluation loop, of course. They're not supervisors, but they are providing feedback on the same kinds of goals that the supervisors are.
Thank you.
Member Riggs?
I was interested in the section on training for the support providers because it seems very future tense to me. And this is a quarterly report, so I would be looking more for things that had happened. Although there are some things listed that were attended, sometimes it seemed like they were attended by the coordinator and then bringing back information. It also says we will have monthly support provider training during our department meeting, but then it says the agenda has not allowed for that. So it makes me wonder, I guess, have a question, have trainings been happening? So if I was a support provider in your program in this last quarter, what were the expectations for my training? Is it kind of find something out there and then we'll request funding, we'll try to get a line item in the budget for the funding, or is there a consistent expectation of training for the support provider? You know, what would you tell me if I were a support provider for you? That is the expectation.
There are two, I think both is the answer. We have sent our support providers to training on coaching teachers, and all of them were expected to go to that, and there were follow-up discussions from that during their regular meetings. They meet once a week, all of the support providers, with their supervisor. But we also offer them as needed training in their particular area of specialty. We match the support provider's area of specialty with the participating teacher's assignment. For example, because we're such a small school, we have one English resource teacher, one content area, one American Sign Language. So when we get a teacher, for example, who's going to teach science, we match the support provider who is a specialist in science with that teacher. So for the support provider, they not only go with the group to get training on coaching techniques to coach teachers, but they can also sign up for NGSS training, for science conferences, for STEM conferences, to help them with their content area knowledge and their ability to work with teachers. So it's really a combination of both kinds of training.
Just one more question. So I'm hearing opportunities, and I wonder if you have a minimum requirement for training for all support providers.
I don't have a specific number of hours of training that they have to get. They do have required trainings that we send them to, and they do have regular required meetings to collaborate and discuss how they mentor teachers. But as far as Common Core standards, NGSS, those kinds of trainings, there's not a specific number of minimum hours.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just wondering if there's no established minimum. Do you have a sense, though, of sort of, because it's a small staff that you work with, so is it off the top of your head, the majority participate in the majority of, I mean, are you concerned about how your colleagues are accessing the available professional development?
We send all of the support providers to professional development. They participate in a variety of conferences, trainings, and also professional organizations, specifically for teachers. of deaf and hard of hearing students. I could give you the number of hours for each person. It's a very small number in this department. There are 8 people, but I'm not concerned with the level of training they have. They all have master's degrees in the field and they get regular training. So we're confident that they have the knowledge base they need to mentor teachers.
Member Riggs?
So I just may be missing this, but so I'm hearing a lot about curriculum, a lot about working with the deaf community, and I'm hearing that there are meetings where we can talk about our work with our new teachers, about our mentoring. Who's the responsible person for the curriculum, if you will, for support providers in coaching? I see that, you're in connection with PLC Mentoring's resources, but when they get together, who decides or leads or guides what is happening about the interactions between support providers and the people that they're coaching and all of those coaching skills? Where does that come?
Okay. We have a coordinator, Kate Kovacs, who is herself an English teacher specialist who provides them with feedback, and they share what's happening between themselves and the participating teachers. They have a supervisor who is a curriculum specialist who acts as a principal. So that department has their own principal supervisor who gives them feedback and does observations and observes some of the meetings between the mentors and the participating teachers. And then ultimately the program is reviewed, including records of the meetings between support providers and participating teachers, what was covered, logs, topics for group trainings, PowerPoints from those trainings. Ultimately, that is my responsibility as the director of instruction to make sure that quality training is happening.
So I think for the future moving forward, the piece I feel like we're kind of casting around for is a light accountability piece that would kind of track the function, the person, and their completion of professional development activities that your institution or your program feels like is a minimum, and then review that on a regular basis to make sure that there's we're not really questioning people's qualifications. We're just questioning the level of oversight around who's participating in what, and the appropriateness of that participation to the role that they play, the multiple roles that they play in your program. So I think that's what I'm hearing people trying to pull together in their heads.
Okay. That's fair feedback, and I can get back to you with more information about that.
Okay, thank you. Member Pensaval?
So would it be possible, plausible, or a next step that somehow we could see documented on paper what your overall mentoring plan is? Who does what with whom, for how long, where the accountability is, where the evaluation is, and where the supervision is. I'm just thinking that I would feel a lot more comfortable seeing a plan like that.
Sure, absolutely. We can definitely put that together. We could definitely put together minimum requirements, the kinds of activities that people need to participate in, the kind of support that they are receiving from the school, and the kind of training that they receive. It would need to be an overall plan. It changes every year depending on how many teachers we're working with and who the support providers are. They meet in a group, they have regular interaction with each other, but for example, if that year we only have two teachers in the program, then we're only going to have 2 mentors. And the next year we might have 5 or we might have 7, depending on how many teachers we have, because we're such a small program. But as far as overall policy, we could develop something on paper, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the idea is to have an infrastructure and a process in place. And if you're doing it for one person, you're doing that process. And if you're doing it for 50, the process, you might have to adjust a little bit because the scale is larger. But the idea is that it's not really driven by how many. It's really driven by wanting to have that data so that you know how to proceed.
Okay.
Member Riggs, and then Member Erickson, then Member Balatayo.
Gay shared with me just a suggestion for guidance for you is from the program review document, number 5, job embedded fieldwork and clinical practice. And it does require training materials used to train mentors and coaches serving in the support role. So that might be a place for you to start because the documentation is an expectation in that program review.
Okay. Member Erickson?
This is a question for committee members and possibly staff. I'm still concerned about the advisory council and the insularity of that. And I'm wondering if we want to make a recommendation to broaden that and getting that feedback on a more consistent, regular basis from the same stakeholders.
Member Balatayo?
That are the feedback loops that are being determined in terms of identifying ways of addressing ways of improving the program for continuing students based on completers' responses, and I think once the work of determining once this separate work of identifying the task of the personnel that could then flow towards addressing the completers express improvements, etc. whatsoever.
So I feel like I'm hearing enough concerns about both the advisory board and sort of the data collection and analysis and response process. So I know that the recommendation is to remove the stipulations and grant full accreditation. They've been through a cycle of quarterly reports. I'm just wondering what our tools are at this point. Cheryl.
Well, so if you look on page 1, those are the stipulations that are in place right now. And what I think you need to do is decide whether they have addressed any of these stipulations and which ones you would like to maintain or adjust in some way, if that's the case. It sounds like some of the issues I've heard around the table revolve around 1 and 3. I'm not sure about 2. I heard a little bit about 2, but I'm not sure where you feel about that. So you may want to make a motion that adjusts the stipulations or the language of the stipulations, and we certainly could do that and remove any that you think are appropriate at this point in time. But I would work with that as a starting place to decide where you want to go.
Okay. So stipulation 1 is about stipulation 1 is about a number of different things, but I think that the piece that was the most that generated the most questions was about the formal advisory council, who's on it, and how those interactions are structured to generate information for the program.
And I think Member Balatayo just brought up the piece about the completers feedback loop. So it might be the advisory council feedback and making sure that that's consistent over time. And then that loop, I think, that also included the support providers and the completers.
Can I make a comment about the completers?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. We have actually an extensive system of getting feedback from the completers. They, we had a lot of anecdotal data from them, meetings with them. They produced a reflective videotape of what they have learned throughout the process, and they present it to their supervisors and to the support providers and the coordinator at the end of the program. They answer a series of reflective questions and video their responses, as well as show evidence of what they taught to students and their students' work and student learning throughout the process. What we didn't have was data that was, we had a lot of qualitative, not as much quantitative, so we developed a survey that would allow us to measure data numerically, but we do have an extensive feedback loop for the participating teachers.
Okay, Member Balatayo and then Member Pensabal.
Just to clarify then, I understand that there is a wealth of anecdotal evidence, and therefore, how is that information then going to drive that feedback loop? I think that's what my, I think that's where my question is going. And based on those anecdotes, how could then that information drive the improvements or maintenance of rigor, or integrity of the program?
That feedback is shared actually in a group meeting. The participants in that meeting are the participating teachers, the support providers, and all of their supervisors, and those supervisors are also in the advisory committee. So all of that feedback and data is then discussed amongst the supervisors with the support providers and the coordinator of the program to discuss any and all improvements that need to be made.
Member Pensabal.
It sounds like there's a lot of data. It sounds like it's in a lot of different places. So I would like to suggest that we that maybe you pull together two documents for us, and one is how you address the needs of your institution through input and feedback from your multiple stakeholders in addition to the advisory group. And then the second thing I think would be really helpful is for us to have some kind of graphic organizer, and I'm not looking for a lot of narrative or text, just to show the overall mentoring program. Who are the mentors? Who are the mentees? Which directions they go? And as Member Balatayo said, what's the feedback loop? And I think that we would feel a lot more confident seeing those on paper and that there's an organized plan for both.
Member Erickson?
Was that a motion? And I would second that.
Okay. I just need to. So I think the motion actually
was made.
Right, but the motion is to. The motion is to accept or not the recommendation of removing all the stipulations and changing the California School for the Deaf status to accreditation. And so I think there needs to be a first part to that motion that says whatever you want it to say.
So I would move that we maintain the current accreditation with stipulations until we get those two pieces, those two documents, or in one document, but addressing both areas, and then we can take it up at a future meeting. Two different documents.
Okay, and so so then we would, if the documents were received in time for our next meeting, we would revisit.
Yes.
The recommendation.
Could I have a clarification needed on, so the two suggestions you made to me, look like they apply to 1 and 3.
Yes.
Do you want to maintain 2 about resources, or do you want to go ahead and remove that stipulation now? Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so the motion I think I've heard is that the motion is to remove stipulation number 2, keep stipulation number 1, keep stipulation number 3, maintain the accreditation status as accreditation with stipulations, and request that the institution provide 2 additional pieces of information related to the training, monitoring, and feedback loop for mentors, and then the advisory council and how it engages with all of the data cycle.
Yep.
Okay.
Excellent summary.
Yes. Very nice.
Is there a second?
I second.
You made it.
Oh, I thought you made it now. All right, fine.
I was just
restating.
Yes,
Thank you for that.
Okay, so motion by Member Pensaval, as recently stated, and then seconded by Member Riggs. Is there any discussion? Yes, Cheryl.
This is just technical, but what about stipulation 4? Do we need to do anything about that?
I think that gets. I'm assuming you're withdrawing or you're removing that one because they did within a year or so. This is just the follow up. Yeah.
So we don't need a formal stipulation about the report. It can be embedded in stipulation 1. That's.
Yeah, I think we're fine.
My question is, do we want to say anything about time frame? So our next meeting is August. Do we want to? So I think for the institution's sake, I'm sure I may be out of Robert's rules here, but I think for the institution's sake, we don't have to put anything in the motion about time frame. You just want to be aware of upcoming meetings and try to get the documents submitted in a timely manner. Okay.
Good.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. So I know that this is probably not the outcome that you hope for. Hopefully the motion gives you sufficient guidance to know how to move forward. And I did want to bring up the issue of the August meeting so that you, I think this is accomplishable by August so that the accreditation status could be revisited when we meet in August pending receipt of those documents.
When is the meeting in August? Because I'm alone here now for the next few weeks. We're on summer break.
It's August 7th. So if you could get that to us, that'd be great. We can work with you after this meeting to talk about timelines. If not, we do have another meeting coming up in October, November. I can't remember the dates right off the top of my head. Right.
We're going to vote on it this afternoon.
Right.
Okay.
So we would probably want to do it in one of those first 2.
Right.
So
Okay.
am I hearing you say you'd like it by August 7th?
If that is possible.
Yeah, if you would like it to be considered at the August 7th meeting, then it would probably have to be prior to that. I think Mr. Locks will be able to guide you on, content and dates and timeline, that kind of thing.
Okay, great.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. So we have Vanguard next.
Right now, right?
Yes, and that's a 7th year report.
Yes.
Full accreditation already. Should go quickly, hopefully. Get back on the timeline.
I think so.
Oh, okay. You might. So make sure you tell them.
What's that? I'm going to recuse myself.
Oh, I'm so sorry. They were at 11 o'clock?
It's
We just
fine.
have one.
We're okay.
All right.
Is there just one?
Yeah. So we are now on item 12. Item 12 is the discussion of the 7th year report from Vanguard University. This information action item will be presented by consultant Lynette Roby. Joining her via Zoom are institutional representatives Dr. Sylvia Kane and Dr. Mickey Gill, co-directors of the graduate program in education. Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
Yes, thank you. So this is an information item regarding Vanguard University's 7th year report, and we have joining us from Vanguard, and I'm not sure, I see one face and not the other, but we have Dr. Sylvia Kane and Dr. Mickey Gill. There they are. Okay.
Thank you.
A bit of background, Vanguard's site visit was held from March 6th through March 8th, 2016. They offer multiple subject preliminary program and a single subject preliminary program. Based on the accreditation site visit team's recommendations in April 2016, Vanguard University received the status of full accreditation. However, due to a concern about Common Standard 2, Vanguard was required to submit a 7th-year report. The site visit team felt that while Vanguard collected substantial data on candidate performance and reviewed that data on an individual candidate level, it did not regularly or systematically aggregate, analyze, and use the data for program effectiveness or improvement. So during the past year, Vanguard has taken actions in response to these concerns, including developing a schedule of the collection of data, the analysis of data, and they also developed a plan on how that data, that candidate and program data would be used to inform program improvement. They restructured their assessment process by separating their assessment of their credential programs away from their master's programs. Prior to this, they were captured together. Vanguard divided its program assessment committee into 2 committees. They now have a teaching credential assessment committee, which oversees program accreditation and analysis of data, while the master's assessment committee now focuses on the master's program. So they've separated the 2. The new teaching credential assessment committee meets twice a semester, and they have a very identified reporting relationship. They report to the director of the graduate programs in education, who then reports to the dean, who then reports to the provost. Next, Vanguard has aggregated individual level candidate data and now reports key assessments by cohort. They are also now able to review data by a variety of elements and can use that analysis to inform any changes or updates to the program that might be needed. The findings from the analyses are shared with university supervisors, master teachers, the dean, the provost, and the Teacher Education Advisory Committee. And that committee is made up of principals, district administrators, master teachers, university supervisors, and alumni. It should be noted that the new system was implemented in August 2016. The 2016 cohort data and analysis, as well as action plans resulting from that analysis, is within Appendix A of this item, and they gave you a pretty comprehensive report there. Although this is not an action item, staff recommends that the COA accept Vanguard's 7th-year report, which identifies the updates that they've made in their process of collecting, analyzing, and then using that data for program improvement. If you have any questions, we have the 2 representatives on the phone, on Zoom.
So at this time, I will open the floor up to members of the committee in case they have questions for Dr. Kane or Dr. Gill.
I don't have a comment.
Yes, Dr. Moore.
I want to thank you for this very extensive report, and I really enjoyed looking at the graphics. It gave me a really good picture of what was happening there, and it was really heartwarming to read the comments that you put into the report. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Dr. Kane or Dr. Gill, would you like to make any brief remarks?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And a very important remark that I would like to share with the committee was that actually this was a tremendous learning opportunity for us as faculty and staff, because we work very closely together with the credential analysts and our staff data analysis person. But by actually making this recommendation at this particular critical time in our program calendar, it allowed us to get on the map, if you will, in terms of the university. It allowed us to legitimize getting the attention of the provost, the dean. And so we were able to bring to the table what we were doing, the changes we were doing. So the very process itself of disaggregating the data became a very positive experience. Even though it was tedious, it was a very positive experience for us as a group.
I think I can say in addition to that, that through this process, we've learned a lot. And with the new program standards and common standards, as we're restructuring our program, we're now focusing on the specific areas that we see a need as we write our new curriculum and as we improve our program. So yes, I agree. This has definitely been very beneficial.
We are very gratified to hear that. Thank you. And that is the intention, I think, even though it may feel different at some point in the process. So thank you for sharing those experiences with us. So this is an information action item. The recommendation from staff is to accept the 7th year report. If we would like to take action on this, we can. Is there an inclination to do that?
Make the motion.
Okay, a motion to accept the 7th year report from Vanguard University has been made by Member Borges. Is there a second? Dr. White is the second. So I'll just do this all day. Once you raise your hand. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries and the 7th year report is accepted. Thank you very much for all your hard work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynette Roby.
Yes.
We'll move now to item 13. The item 13 is a report of the revisit team to Holy Names University. Consultant Erin Sullivan will introduce this item. With her at the table is institutional representative Larry Johnson. Joining the meeting electronically is Elaine Bauer. Also at the table is team lead Mark Carey, who will present the team report. Is there any member who needs to recuse him or herself? Ms. Sullivan, will you begin, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
This item is a report of the Accreditation Revisit to Holy Names University, and I am joined at the table by team lead Mark Carey, and also joining us, as was mentioned, is Larry Johnson, who is the PACT coordinator and also the multiple subject program coordinator at Holy Names. And then via Zoom, we have Dr. Elaine Bauer. She's the Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs. Just to note, I think it's important to note, Kimberly Mayfield, Dr. Kimberly Mayfield, who is the chair of the Department of Education, and again, there are not deans over the departments at Holy Names. She was absolutely going to be here with us today, but she had a family tragedy earlier this week, so that is the only reason she's not here. Following last June's presentation of the report of findings of the accreditation site visit to Holy Names University, the COA's accreditation decision was accreditation with major stipulations. This decision was based on the number of standards, both common and program, that were found to be either not met, which is specifically Common Standard 2, or met with concerns. The 8 stipulations that were placed on Holy Names can be found on page 1 of this item. Just would note 2 of the 8 stipulations are really procedural stipulations that directed the institution to provide quarterly reports to staff, which they did do in a timely manner, and to submit to a revisit, which is what we will discuss a little bit in this item. Again, Holy Names quarterly reports were submitted on time, were presented to, and satisfactorily received by the COA. And again, I will just say that it was decided after the delivery of their last quarterly report that they had responded so well and so completely to the stipulations at that time, and that the timing of the revisit was such that a third quarterly report would not be required, and the team would just do that follow-up work at the site visit. So in April of this year, almost a year to the date exactly from their first site visit, a team of 3 returned to Holy Names University for the revisit. The team consisted of myself and 2 BIR members, both of whom were part of the original site visit team, and that did include Mark Carey and also Ann Weisenberg. The team arrived on the Holy Names campus at 10 a.m. on Wednesday, April 12, and began interviews promptly at 10:15. Due to the number and content of the stipulations and standards concerned, the revisit filled 2 full working days, with the report out being held on Friday morning. The only unusual event of the site visit was that Friday was Good Friday, so the campus was closed. So we held that report out via Zoom technology. That was really the best way we could include everybody, and I don't recommend it. I didn't love providing the report that way at all.
At least not from a hotel.
Not from it, yeah. The team was in the hotel room. The university members were in their respective locations, and I just personally didn't love doing it that way. But that is what we did. The team did work very well together, achieved consensus on its findings, and Holy Names was a very gracious host to the team, very cooperative, very responsive to the things that we requested while we were there. Based on evidence received in its quarterly reports and that which was provided through interviews and documentation at the revisit, the team is recommending Holy Names University's accreditation status be changed from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation with stipulations. I'm going to turn the presentation over to team lead Mark Carey at this time, and he will discuss the team's findings, the stipulations, and the rationale.
Do I need to say anything?
No, it's already on.
Oh, man. All this new technology. I'm looking at these big screens and microphones. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. Certainly a better front than Zooming from a hotel room. So reviewing the progress reports from Holy Names and the revisit report, I should make it clear that Holy Names has worked diligently to address the 2016 team visit findings. The series of stipulations in the 2016 visit related to 4 common and 8 program standards. The revisit team looked at evidence for all of those standards, whether they were directly related to a stipulation or not. And based on that evidence review, determined that 8 of the 12 standards are now met. And the remaining 2 common and 2 program standards are now met with concerns. So those are decisions that are reflected in the new revisit team findings on standards. Based on that evidence, the team is also recommending removal of all of the 2016 stipulations, and we'll get to kind of a nuanced point on one of those stipulations a little bit later. The standards that are not yet fully met from the revisit include multiple single subject standard 19, for which, because of the timing and the focus of the revisit, there was no evidence for the team to examine at the visit, so there was no basis for making a change in finding on standard. Multiple single subject 18, standard 18 now concerns only the single subject program. The multiple subject program is no longer concerned for that standard. And we anticipate that the single subject part of that standard will be addressed when the unit and program assessment system is fully operational. So that we expect will, and Larry can probably talk about that later. Common Standard 6, advice and assistance, although it was met with concerns, it's a long standard, and so you can have quite a few things that are not being ideally done and still meet it with concerns. In addressing that standard, Holy Names has effectively corrected all of the issues having to do with candidate advisement and really has a much tighter, much clearer, and candidates reported this to be the case, process for advisement so that candidates are getting uniform advisement. The remaining concern for that standard is specific only to program information on the university website. Because there still are inconsistencies or gaps in that information, the team felt the standard still had to be found met with concerns. So the remaining concern is relative to Standard 2. And the key word, both in the stipulation for Standard 2 and the standard language itself, is the word implemented. And I'm seeing Terry nodding. Those of us who go back to when this standard was first introduced, visit after visit, know what a challenge it's been for teams to make findings on that standard because of that word. Mm-hmm. You have a complex system that operates both the program and the unit level, and what does it take to meet the criterion of implemented. So we looked at the evidence. It's clear that there's a structure in place. The team found at Holy Names clear evidence that the system is beginning to operate in all of its parts at the program level. And yet, at the same time, it was clear that the system as a whole is not yet fully operational. When COA agreed on the stipulation as part of the 2016 report or decision, the discussion at the table reflected the fact that in a year's time, it was difficult to go from no system to a complete, fully operational system within a period of a year. But the term implemented is still there in the stipulation, and it's still there in the standard. So when we got to the point as a team of not being able to come to consensus on the standard finding, whether the standard remained not met or whether it was met with concerns, Aaron arranged a video conference with Terry and Cheryl, and we put all of our heads together and referred back to material that CTC staff had put together, primarily Terry had put together in 2012 to help teams and institutions figure out what it takes to meet standard 2. And the team was able to come to consensus on a finding of met with concerns. But as part of that same consensus, the team felt it was critical to go on record that the system is not yet fully operational and that it really needs to be. And in Holy Name's case, it's particularly important because there's a pattern, a historical pattern in terms of evaluation and assessment at Holy Names. So in the 2008 visit, the team found that the evaluation language that was adopted in 2000 still had not been met. And in the 2016 visit, the team found that the standard language adopted in 2008 still had not been met. And so the team just felt it's time for the rubber to hit the road. And the system needs to be up, it needs to be running, it needs to be complete, it needs to be fully operational. And it seemed like the appropriate way to help that happen was by introducing or recommending a new stipulation. The new stipulation actually is kind of a segue from the original CS2 stipulation in that it now focuses on, yes, the system is up, but it has to be running at both levels, unit and program level, and all parts have to be evident. So that is the recommendation, removal of the CS2 stipulation from the 2016 visit, addition of a recommended stipulation for the 2017 revisit, and as part of that whole package, a recommendation to change the accreditation status from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation with stipulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Johnson and Ms. Bauer as institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. And I remind you that this is not a time to re-argue the contents of the report. Okay, thank you. The visit was extremely helpful for Holy Names University. The team was extremely specific, extremely honest, extremely supportive, and through that, it has helped us become really focused on the areas where we need to change things in the program, areas specifically around the assessment system, and it also, thanks to Aaron, Aaron has been extremely helpful and specific in what we need to do and how we need to, the reports that need to be submitted, what needs to be submitted in those, and what we need to be
doing to get to full accreditation. As a result of those specific suggestions, we have been working diligently to put together the assessment system and put together the things regarding the other stipulations as well. Yeah.
Thank you for your comments. Is Dr. Bauer on Zoom? Okay, is there anything, or telephone? Dr. Bauer, is there anything that you would like to add? Okay, are there members with questions? Okay, Member Erickson, then Member Briggs.
Thank you for your comments. Could you tell us what plans specifically have been put in place to analyze and utilize data across the unit, and what data is going to be collected, and how will that be analyzed to ensure continuous improvement of your programs?
Okay. One change is that there is a reorganization taking place in the department. Instead of to address this issue specifically, previously there has been program coordinators for multiple subject and single subject separately. That will be combined into one coordinator and another coordinator for the assessment system. We have put together a system that includes a variety of surveys, including surveys to faculty regarding classes taught, survey to supervisors regarding the supervision process, surveys to candidates regarding supervisors, district support providers or master teachers, faculty, and advising, surveys to district support providers, and to master teachers, and surveys to completer students. In addition, we will be examining the intern and district support provider logs that are in place, and signature assignment assessments taking place, and those are obviously being changed because of the new TPEs, and so there will be a regular collection of that data from the signature assignments and analysis of that data. Candidate performance assessments will be collected and analyzed, disaggregated analysis per each TPE, and disaggregated analysis per subject area. The data from the performance assessments previously had been done separately in multiple subjects and single subjects. That is now being combined with one person collecting that data and putting it into a format for disaggregated analysis. We will be disaggregating and analyzing that both individually, the coordinator, and as a team in the department. This will all take place in a cycle of inquiry, and I think you got a graphic of the cycle of inquiry in which we will be developing and sharing the plan, we will be gathering the data, we'll be analyzing and making revisions accordingly. Twice during each cycle of inquiry, there will be a meeting with stakeholders to share the data and the plan with them and to get input from the stakeholders in addition to the proposed revisions.
Can you talk about the roles and responsibilities of both the program director and the assessment coordinator and how they're going to interact to ensure that your unit overall assessment is analyzing and utilizing that data?
Sure. We have a small department. There's only 5 full-time faculty members. And so when we meet, this will be part of the agenda items where we talk about it as a whole department. But also those 2 specific people will be meeting to make sure that there is close synchronicity between or among all of the items being addressed.
Was there a formal assessment plan developed so that you know what data you're going to be looking at, when, who's responsible for it, what the outcome will be?
Yes.
I guess I didn't see
Yeah.
that, so thank you.
Yeah, that plan was included in the second quarterly report. Yeah.
Member Riggs.
Congratulations on all of your hard work.
Thank you.
It's a short time to do a lot of things. So
Right.
It's difficult, and then it takes a while perhaps to see the payoff. But it comes, so it's good. I have a question as I look at the candidates and completers table. And when I first looked at it, I was trying to interpret the number of candidates enrolled or admitted in 2015-16 and the number of completers from 2015-16 because it doesn't match up very well. And so then my initial thought was maybe it's related to interns. Are they all interns? Can you help us interpret the number of people admitted versus the number of completers that you have?
I wish that Dr. Bauer could respond, but I don't know that she's online.
I just sent her an email asking if she was.
And I wish that Dr. Mayfield was here. She could respond far better than I
I
can.
can give you a little context on this from
Sure.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because when I did the visit back in 2008 with Mr. Carey, and we found out there were 300 people enrolled in the program, and I said, whoa, what's going on? But they had under 30 completers. It's a part-time program for many people there, and there's a reality at Holy Names that if you are on staff, you may take classes for free. There are a lot of people who take a course, stop out for a year, may take another course sometime, may take another course sometime. So it's not like a CSU or a program where it's much more of a cohort. We all come in together, we all go, and we all finish together. There is a lot of in and out with a lot of staff people and or other people that just have something else happen in their life. And so it's not really a full-time program. That's when I started to learn about part-time teacher preparation program in the state.
I can tell you that in speaking with Dr. Mayfield about this, over the course of the last couple of years, she has talked a lot about the program really trying to be flexible with their candidates and allowing them to kind of stop in and stop out. And we've had some conversations about, how is that really working for the program? Is that working well? But I mean, that is why the numbers look the way they look.
One of the other aspects is that in the last couple years specifically, we've noticed that almost all of the candidates that have come in want to do intern teaching. Because of the teaching shortage, they are being requested by districts to come in and be an intern teacher. So we have we've had in the past 2 years, very few student teachers in the program. That is changing a little bit. We have more student teachers that are part of the program now, but that is an element.
It might just be, and maybe this is part of your assessment system, but to look at the data related to those different types of candidates that you have, to to see what's happening with those part-time people
Right.
versus the full-time versus the intern versus the student teacher. So it just seems like an appropriate
Good,
aspect of
yeah.
the assessment system.
Great. That's another way to disaggregate that will be really valuable. Thank you.
Other questions from members? Okay, this is an action item, and the recommended action is to accept the team recommendation, changing accreditation status for holy names from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation with stipulations. Is there a motion?
And I just want to be clear that the stipulation is listed on page 3, the actual language that the team has proposed. So,
Okay, so a motion from Member Riggs and a second from Member Frelly. Is there any discussion or all those in favor, please?
Oh, I guess it's too late for me to ask. So I'm so sorry for not maybe jumping in a little more on this a little sooner. The stipulation is not specific about the time frame in which the institution will provide the follow-up data. And part of that was because I kind of felt like I would like guidance from the COA based on what you've heard in the report. That said, I can certainly work something out with the institution, but do you want them to follow up quarterly? Do you want me to give them a year? Do you want me to give them maybe till the end of the fall semester, at which point they will have had sort of 2 semester cycles? I apologize for not jumping in until just now, but I would love a little guidance on that if you'd like to provide it.
I'd like to recommend the biannual, the every other semester.
Okay.
The 2 semesters.
Okay.
So there's 1 semester of the inquiry cycle at both levels completed. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay, and then at the conclusion of the fall, that would constitute a second complete cycle at both the program and the unit level. And so you're recommending that we get an additional document in early 2018 COA meeting on this issue?
Great, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So I think that was an amended motion, right?
Right.
Okay. Do I need to restate it?
Sure.
Okay.
It would
So
be
I
hurt
think
for
so. And
the
then the
record.
question goes to Member Briggs. So the amendment to your motion is basically accept the recommendation of the team with the added definition of when the updated report would be presented to us. So the updated report would have the results of 2 cycles of inquiry, and then it would come to the COA in 2018.
Right, early 2018.
Okay, and so the second still works, Member Frelly? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you to everybody involved in this work.
Great. Thank you.
We have a time certain at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
So go to lunch.
So we're going
Yeah.
to have a quick lunch. We have a time certain at 1 o'clock, so please be back in time for to get yourself settled and ready for our 1 o'clock item.
We want to take This is a very safe room. You can leave all your stuff.
Okay.
They'll have to mute it back there. They
Okay.
can mute this.
Yeah, we're going to call that reporter guy.
Figure out where.
Is anybody going to Chipotle that could get me something to eat?
I owe you.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Oh.
Are you going to Chipotle?
I am.
Well, this is 2 meals in a row, Bob. Are you
Boom.
sticking around for dinner too?
What
What
are you making?
I'm really,
All right.
What's your husband making, right?
Yeah. Well, we have the vegetarian at home, so we're having a vegetarian pasta.
Okay.
Oh, okay, great.
There you go.
Like not be that way, but it's okay. And I can see
So we have a 1 o'clock. Certain. Boy, that was quite the morning.
Yeah.
It's full.
The prednisolone is kind of milky, if I remember, and kind of crabby. But I don't know what the other drug is.
Another one.
It took 3 tries, all of us.
I've been down this road.
Now,
Had good
our,
modeling there.
for whatever
I
reason,
still
our
have
mics
some
don't
old prednisolone
do
I need to
anything.
get rid of.
So
It's not going off. It's
I had it for
Yes,
most-
I agree.
I'm not sure.
And how's your husband doing?
How much do they cost?
Yeah, I was just going to go to Chipotle.